We'll figure it out next time. So for those of you that didn't hear, we're going to say it again. Welcome to this first premiere episode of the LARP Lounge. Here I am with Leetah Deadmost, but she told us something about her real last name.
So my real last name is Paxenarian. It's Leetah Paxenarian. Not a lot of people know that. Deadmost was actually a nickname given to my character in game.
Given by who?
It was given by Forley. We were in the Arbor Isles. In the Arbor Isles, all of the characters are ghosts.
Oh, yes.
And since I was undead and a ghost, I was Deadmost.
And it just kind of stuck. That's how things happen, though, in LARP. Just like with real life. Things just tend to stick. So, how's everybody doing today? Oh, by the way, when someone comes in brand new and they follow, I will sing the Mr. Rogers song at them. So, just...
All right.
I was going to tell you that beforehand.
I've been warned.
Yes, I was going to tell you beforehand, but I forgot. So, now everyone knows. In fact, there is an alert I wanted to replay for Luca. Oh, I don't have my tip jar or anything on there.
Yeah, we'll get it all worked out.
Oh, well, we'll get it later. We don't have the bit boss or nothing. Lots of stuff goes into this.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm much more the hacky slashy type, a lot less the technical type. I mean, you don't have to be very technical to play World of Warcraft. So.
No. Yeah, she has joined the World of Warcraft craze along with everybody else for the original.
Yeah, well, yeah, I played vanilla back in the day, and so it was very nostalgic for me.
Chrono Trigger's nostalgia. WoW's not nostalgia.
No. It was. So I also played Warcraft back in the day.
Yeah, that's what I love.
Originally, playing World of Warcraft was cool, right? And so for me now, I stepped away from the game for 10 years. Yeah, because I played for the first 5 years and then stepped away for 10 years. And so now it's nostalgia for me again.
Cool.
And actually, World of Warcraft is where I got my character name.
Leetah?
Leetah's my character in World of Warcraft. Which is actually from a comic book, too. That's actually where I got it originally.
Arrustar, which is my channel name, is from a D&D. But this character, since I haven't introduced myself yet, I'm terrible. This character is Jovi Smash, one of the Smash Brothers. My other Smash brother is in chat. Nevitz Gaming. He is my brother. He is Boji Smash. He wields a hammer, I wield a mace, and together we smash.
Yes, they do.
And by the way, we came up with this name way prior to the Smash Brothers video games. I mean, we have no proof of that, but I'm just telling you, we played them in a D&D game many moons ago. But anyway, we're here to talk about LARP. So, no, it's fine. That's what I want. We need to fill this time somehow. So, the title of this one is, What is LARP? So, to you, what is LARP?
All right. So, if somebody approaches me or asks me on Facebook or whatever, what is LARP? My go-to answer is it's live-action D&D. Or it's improv theater where you get to beat people with foam weapons. Depending on who I'm talking to. If I don't think they know what D&D is, then I go with the latter.
Well, let's go with they don't know what D&D is.
Yeah, so improv, where you're acting a part, but you don't have scripted lines, right? So you have a character with a background, history, motivations, personality, and you basically adopt those as yourself, and you go with a whole bunch of other people who have these new personas, and you act in a world with them. Some LARPs are what they call a parlor LARP, where there's no fighting involved. It's all just roleplay. But the LARP that we attend together is it's about 50-50 combat and roleplay. And
well, and in my opinion, combat is still roleplay because
absolutely.
You're still taking the role of the combatant. So rather than rolling a dice and having the dice say whether you hit or not, it's
You have to actually hit
You
them.
actually have to hit them. So, there is some skill involved that you will parlor over time. Because in the beginning, I was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm better now. I'm still not as good as some of the others. But you learn and you adapt.
You do. You definitely learn.
So
My first time playing Leetah before she was undead, when she was a, pretty sexy elf back in the day, I was dual wielding 2 short swords, and I was garbage. I was on the ground more than I was up. And then I eventually switched to a 2-hander because I really liked the reach, be able to keep things away from me and hit them hard. But now I do sword and board because the board keeps me alive and the sword keeps them at bay.
So for those of you that don't know the slang, sword and board stands for sword and shield.
Right.
So board, because sometimes they were literally made out of boards back in the day. So, I mean, a wooden shield is basically a board.
Yeah.
Fancier, but still a board.
Yep. So that's, basically LARP.
Or a potted lid for some people.
So, I agree with her to kind of make it, you do play the character in all aspects of it. And,
Yeah, you become the character.
yeah, you become the character in all aspects. And this is where I think having a background and having motivation and morals is even more so important than D&D, because in D&D sometimes you can just say nothing. That's not always the case in LARP, because there will be one-on-one conversations, and if you don't have a solid drive or background for your character, it's very difficult to answer the way your character would answer. Now I want to hit people with a 2x4. Well, I think your hammer does more damage than a 2x4, so I think you should stick with that. But hit them with a board. I'll bet you there is because they have those apocalypse LARP weapons now. I'll bet you there is one that's just like a board with nails in it, though.
Yep.
With
with nails. Yep, they've got
if
those.
it's apocalypse,
they've got like a wooden bat with nails in it. They've got all kinds of stuff now. Actually, a lot of the LARP weapon companies are coming out with a lot of new stuff recently.
Yeah, they are. So LARP's getting some notice. Sword and 2x4 board. Dude, have you 2x4 wielding that in one? You'd have to cut it down. Because at the lengths they come in the store, it's too unwieldy. But
You just gotta cut it like 3 times and glue them together so that at least it's wide enough to block with.
yeah,
Because the 2x4 doesn't. You have to be pretty accurate
That
to
would be
block
a-
an attack with that.
that would be like a 2x12 at that point in time.
It's
But
true.
that would be kind of funny, though. I don't know that they have any shields like that, but I bet you they have weapons like that.
I could make you one if you wanted me to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in our next episode. Her lovely crafting and stuff like that. We're going to call it Tools of the Trade.
Yeah.
Making LARP weapons and armor and stuff. This armor was made by me and other people, too. So we'll talk about that. It was a pain in the butt. And in the beginning, so back to what LARP is. In the beginning, I didn't have a very good concrete idea of what Jovi was, and so I didn't talk a lot. And as such, I missed out on a lot of things until I started to solidify. Yeah, see, Gaming Mama helped me make it. She did a lot of the lifting.
That's awesome.
She did a lot of it. So, when I say heavy lifting, as in she did like most of the work. So, and my buddy here bought the stuff. We'll talk about that in the next episode. So. Also, hi, Gaming Mama. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So now I have a more... basically I play Jovi like a paladin, which has caused some confusion in game because some people think that I am a class called a White Knight, because the White Knight basically is played like a paladin.
Right. It's a paladin without a deity. So in our world,
Yeah, we don't really have...
we don't have deities.
Yeah, I've never really
We have
heard-
super powerful, creatures, beings, and different ones go by different names, whether they're primordials or demons or whatever. But we don't have deities. So a White Knight which is kind of based off a paladin, right, is basically somebody that just tries to do what's good, right, and taking people's motivations into consideration, and not just, oh, well, you broke the law, right? So a lot of people will think like a lawful good person will be like, well, no, it doesn't matter, you broke the law, you're going to jail, or you're paying the fine or whatever, where a white knight will take into consideration, well, okay, you broke the law, but you were trying to feed your starving family, and so let's fix the problem that drove you to breaking the law, rather than punishing you for trying to protect yourself.
I would say with White Knight specifically, I would say their deity is the code.
Yes.
Because the code is above all. And as she was talking about, one of the parts of the code is temperance. Is that you have to, like she was saying, you sometimes you have to look at the situation and dish out a punishment that is just. Because it may, like she said, it may say that you have to cut off their hands, but you need to look at the situation, and sometimes you have to temper your justice with mercy. Because that is one of the aspects of it.
Absolutely.
Because I had to read it recently because I had a magic item that enforced me to play it. I don't have that magic item anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No, I sacrificed it to kill...
to kill Talsagor.
To kill Talsagor.
They wouldn't let me sacrifice my last safe death.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Barris looked at me and he's all, no.
That's funny.
I was like...
So in LARP, speaking of, you have deaths. So it's not like in D&D where your character dies and you're done. The way it starts is you have 3 safe deaths, I believe.
At our specific LARP that we go to, Mythic Realms, you have 3 safe deaths. So that means the first 3 times you die, you're guaranteed to come back alive. But you have what we call our death marble bag, right? So there's 10 marbles in the bag at all times.
And these kind of represent like your character's inner resolve to return to the fight, return to the living world.
Right.
Like an average person in this world, like a common farmer, doesn't have this will to return to life. So it's kind of something that's special to adventurers. So
right.
Yeah, cyclic and non-cyclic.
Exactly.
That's what we call it.
Yeah, exactly. So the the first bag, if you will, is assembled with 8 white marbles, 1 blue marble, and 1 black marble. The white marbles, if you draw one of those, you come back to life, but you don't remember anything that happened in the last half an hour. The blue marble, if you draw that, you come back to life, and you remember what happened in the last half hour. And then the black marble means that you're dead and you're not coming back to life, right? And then every time you die, if you don't draw the black marble, one of the white marbles gets replaced with a black marble. So the more times you die, the higher the chance is that you will draw a black marble. So my character has got 8 black marbles, 1 blue marble, and 1 white marble left. So if I die again, I'm not coming back. And the only reason that I've come back as many times as I have is actually because of plot. Because in-game, they had certain in-game mechanics or abilities that brought me back to life, even though I should have died. I drew the black marble. My soul was shredding into oblivion, and the demon that I had just given another part of my soul to grabbed my soul and said, no, it's a white knight soul that's too valuable to me, and pulled it back together. And that's how I survived that one.
Yes, Storm Dragon. She has experience drawing the black marble.
Oh, yeah.
And this weekender, we actually had a character draw a black marble. It was their 4th death. Yeah. So the odds were still pretty low, and she was pretty bummed. And I know Storm Dragon, when it happened to her, she was heartbroken. There's no sugarcoating it. She had a hard time with it for a while because you invest a lot of time and energy into these characters. It's more than a piece of paper. Yeah,
it becomes a part of yourself. And she
it
played
does.
that character for what, 5?
I don't know how
Plus
long. How
years?
long did you play Storm Dragon? Or Storm, I guess. I don't think that was your last name. It was Storm. What was your last name? That's a good question. Did you even have a last name? It'll take a while. There's a big delay.
Oh, big delay. Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Like when they, even for them to, like when they type it, it takes a while for us to see it, and then it takes them for a while to hear us, and then
Gotcha.
vice versa. So this will be investment and attachments. Yeah, see, he's hearing about it. Yeah, like there's a huge attachment to it, and
Yeah.
investment. Like this was $300,
Yeah.
$500 worth of materials, which is still cheaper than if I had bought it pre-made.
Yeah.
So
My set of armor that that I wear is Leetah. I didn't wear it today because it's not very comfortable to just sit in. But I have a full set of plate mail that I wear, and I bought it used from somebody who had like bought it as a prop for a photo shoot once. And I was like, yes, please. She sold it to me for $600 for the full set, and that was like half the price it would have been new.
oh, he's not talking money investment, and that's true. You do invest your time, and you have a lot of in-game time where you spent establishing connections with other characters.
Those characters are average 5 years old.
Yeah, and you establish. Well, he said, I have a viewer here in the studio. He said most characters are about 5 years old, so you can imagine playing a character for 5 years straight. So let's see. The full name was Kandara Aurora, but she went by Storm. I played from the time I started till about 5 years ago. Yeah, so she played for 5 years, which is about the average. So, but the other thing is that you develop what she called a plot. Like it is story that is designed around your character, and this doesn't just happen on its own. You have to pursue this. You have to want it, and that's another huge investment. Like currently, I'm searching for something in game called the Shield of Spring. Which has taken a while. I've just recently gotten a huge lead on that, but I had to follow that. And it would really suck if from a year from now, I'm like this close from forging it and then I died.
Yeah.
Like that would be the worst thing that could happen. So that's kind of, I think, what Nevitz Gaming is talking about with investment. Like, as you get invested in these stories, you get invested in other people. Like I'm a warden.
Oh, can I tell you the story of when I almost obliterated? Okay, so when I died, right, and they're like, your soul is shredding apart, and this demon brings it back together, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, my character's a white knight. My character fights against demons. I had given a piece of my soul to this demon so that we could defeat a greater demon.
You're talking about the demon in the dream world when we fought?
Yeah, at Winterfest.
She got a lot of crap
Deadmost.
for that.
I got a lot of crap for that. But you know, I also I play Leetah as a white knight, always looking for the greater good, right? Like, no, I don't do deals with demons, but if we don't get the rebirth that this demon is offering us, we're all going to die, and then this greater demon that we're fighting is going to wreak havoc across Cerelia. And so I decided to make the deal. It was worth my sacrifice to save everyone else. But then I died in the big boss fight. And the demon, pulls my soul back together. And I had to make the decision, do I want to come back to life? Or do I want to stay dead? Because now I have this demon, like, inseparably attached to my soul. But Leetah, as a character, now out of game, I have 6 kids. And 3 of them are really too young to LARP. So I put in Leetah's backstory that she has 3 nieces and nephews. Just in case I ever had to bring them with me, I would have a reason for having them there. And their mother, my Leetah's sister, had died, right? And so I was in charge of them. And most of the time I paid someone else to take care of them while I, did the adventuring and earned the money. But when I was there in the circle trying to make that decision, of whether I was going to come back to life or if I was going to let myself die permanently so that I wouldn't be attached to this demon, I thought about the children, right? Like, Leetah's in charge of these children, and they're innocent, and they're alone in the world without her. And I walked up to one of the other PCs that I was role-playing with, who was trying to help me make this decision, and I was like, will you take care of the children? And I started bawling, and he started bawling, and he said yes, and then had to turn and walk away, because that investment, that, like, it's not just my character. Like, how is this affecting everybody else? If I die, you know, it's just me, right? I'm going to come back as a new character, and it's not a big deal, and that's kind of how I've always viewed it. But there, in that moment, when I had to make that decision of, okay, well, it's here. Do you die? Or do you choose to come back to life? And I was so torn. And thinking about, you know, as a mom in real life, thinking about if this was the real world and I had to make that choice to leave my children forever or to be able to come back, like, it was so real and so vivid. I was on a high for like 3 days after that, because that experience brought up so many emotions and so much like adrenaline and attachment that it was the best LARP experience that I ever had. Was that like connection of, this is me, even though it's Leetah, right? That's still a part of me, and that's still me making the decisions. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so I mean, that's good to know. I didn't know that there was that much involved in that, and the other reason she chose to do it is because she knew that if she didn't, I would have felt like a terrible warden for letting her die.
No, because that was before you were my warden.
Oh.
Because that was Winterfest.
Oh,
You didn't bond me
I didn't bond you till after.
After that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I'll get to your question in a second too, Outlander. I did see it. So, and that's actually a really good question. And if anyone else in the audience has questions, please feel free to ask them. So yeah, Nevitz Gaming took 5 years to get his hammer. So imagine if he was 4.5 years. At that point, he probably had all the materials. He maybe needed only one material, and then he died. Like, all of that would have been for nothing. So that's kind of what he's talking about with the character investment. So, Outlander asks, is there an alignment aspect, and if so, how do you determine alignment changes? So there isn't it's not as like a structure as like in D&D where there's lawful good, neutral good, etc. Characters will definitely show when they're made aspects of those alignment. So for example, my alignment, if you were to say I had one, is lawful good, and I just choose to play it that way. There isn't really like a strict structure where they're like, oh, this action made you change your alignment, because you don't actually have one when you design your character. So I play lawful good, so that means like I follow the laws of the land and I try to do good over evil most of the time, or every time. They're like, there is no most. That would be neutral. So I would say Leetah's probably lawful good as well too, especially since she's a white knight. It's kind of one of those unwritten rules that they just kind of go hand in hand. But we definitely, even amongst our town, and we call it town, but it's really our adventuring party, there are people that are of various alignments. We have a guy, I would easily say he is probably neutral evil, because he will think, and he did do this a little while ago and got yelled at profusely. He killed the guy to steal his money. He claims that he didn't do it to steal his money, but unfortunately when the guy died, he picked up his sword, and there was an in-game aspect where essentially a photo was taken in-game, and this guy was sent back to another place, and the photo was shown to everyone that he was sent to. So even though he says he didn't kill the guy to steal his stuff, there is literally an in-game photo of him holding this guy's weapon over his dead corpse. Boji would be compared to Chaotic Good, and I agree with that. He doesn't necessarily always follow the law, which is funny because he was the sheriff for a while, and he was the law.
Seems to be most of our sheriffs, I think, are chaotic.
Yeah, I would definitely say Crow. He was the most recent sheriff as well. He was a big old barbarian.
Oh, yeah,
He will
now.
probably be on one of my other streams. So, yes, we are streaming today from Ascendance Gaming Center. I want to thank them specifically for providing their space for me and their time, because I would not have been able to do this from my personal space. It just was not conducive to this sort of, I guess, atmosphere, and there just wasn't enough space, period, end of story. So I really appreciate that. If you're anybody local here from Utah, I would definitely recommend checking them out. So back to her death, when she talked about a rebirth. In Mythic, there are skills and abilities, and some can only be used per day limits. There are some that you can use per battle, and every time you get like a 5-minute rest, that's considered a rest, and you get those battle abilities back. But daily abilities you do not get back unless they call a reset or if there's a rebirth. So when she talked about giving us a rebirth, she's talking about everybody that was on their adventure, all of their expended daily abilities. She sacrificed her life so that they could all get those daily abilities back, which at the point in time where we were at, almost everybody had already expended
Everything.
most, if not all, of their daily abilities. And so we would have gotten into the final fight as weaklings. We would have had absolutely no chance.
As farmers, basically.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had, it was still hard, but it was a lot easier because we had all of our abilities back.
Yeah. Did you see that one?
Oh, Luke, no, I didn't. Where's it? Oh, okay. It's coming in late, so you might have answered this already. Is there like a character sheet or something? Yes, there is a character sheet that they can print out for you. They have. Do you have one?
I don't have my character sheet, but this is a cheat sheet that I wrote up based off of my character sheet. So
Actually, oh, go ahead.
I just got this like little leather-bound book off of Amazon, and then just printed up pages. This tells me like my combat abilities, my utility abilities, how long it takes me to die, and all the different ways that I can resist death. I've also got the White Knight code in here, my White Knight abilities. But yeah, they do have a character sheet that the game runners fill out, and you update it with them.
Yeah, and the way that so there's not necessarily leveling up. Every time you play, you earn skills, and every ability in the game costs so many skill points. And the higher, so there are levels in skills. So for example, I have level 5 of Grant Wellbeing, which cost me a lot of skill points to get there. And they have like a full-on Excel spreadsheet that does all the math and everything for them and let you know if you have enough. If you would like Luca Lock, I actually have Jack Traits. What's up? Yeah, LARP. Woohoo! Go LARP! Oh, and that was the first thing I wanted to get to. So everyone that doesn't know, LARP stands. It's a short anagram. Is that the acronym for live action role play? So if you say LARPing, it's live action role playing. So that was like the first thing I meant to get to, and I didn't even get to it. You just reminded me, so thank you, Jack Traits. So if you would like to see, though, Luca Lock, I do have a character sheet into my car that I could go grab.
You should send him to grab it.
Yeah, I could actually send my helper to go get it. But so in my tote, my larger brown bag, it's in there. If you look in the bag, there should be cuffs.
Yeah, I don't think...
Yes, I have handcuffs because I was a deputy. It's nothing weird, all right? It's just for in-game when I have to detain a suspect.
Yeah, no, I don't have my character.
They were given to me by the sheriff, who is now retired and is gone. So they kind of mean something to me. And a lot of people don't know this. He was my cousin.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And Boji can confirm this. So are there different LARP organization games that have different character sheets? I don't know if they have different character sheets, but yes, there are different LARP organizations. Even amongst Utah, we have at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's 3 that are currently active that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And yes, everyone has their own different style of character sheet.
Yes, that is why I have cuffs, all right? There's nothing weird going on, no offense gaming. They were given to me by the sheriff. But anyway, to answer your question, Luca Locke, we play in Mythic Realms, which is the one that we're talking about currently. There is another one that's called Alliance LARP. And what I don't know what the third.
So the third one is Rexerit.
Oh.
So Alliance LARP is
he's
actually it's a nationwide game. So they have chapters in different areas.
I thought Alliance was nationwide too, isn't it?
Alliance, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So Alliance is nationwide. So they've got, a chapter in Seattle, and they've got a chapter in Kansas, and they've got a chapter in Denver. The chapter here is 2 years old, so fairly new.
Actually, there's another one we're forgetting too. It's called Amped Guard.
Oh yeah, so there's Amped Guard and Belagarth.
And Amped Guard, I played a little bit. They are focused a lot more on the combat side of it, and they do like giant wars. If any of you have seen the movie Role Models, what they do in Role Models is extremely similar to how Amped Guard functions. Although Role Models had a little bit more character development than I typically see in Amped Guard. But to be fair, I haven't been to Amped Guard in a few years, so there could have been changes made that I'm not aware of. But that is another one. If you just want to go and hit stuff, Amped Guard is the way to go.
Yeah, Amped Guard and Belagarth both are very combat oriented.
So, anyway, here's your question, Luca Locke. Can you see this, Shay? I mean, not very well, but can you see it on camera? She can't hear me.
No, she can't hear you.
She'll hear me through the delay.
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. So this is the character sheet. I don't know. You probably can't see it very well, but it's kind of broken up into different things. Like, here's my battle abilities. Here's my utilities. Utilities are...
There's skills that are not always combat
Yeah, they're not always combat oriented. Some of them are. And then there's another section for like my class. Like I'm the Warden class, so I have to spend abilities specifically for my Warden class. And then down in the bottom right, it kind of shows me how many times per day or per battle I can use my abilities. So I don't know. Does you play? I just forgot it. Alliance. Do they have a character sheet?
So they have a website where you can go and generate your character, and it saves it in their database, and you can print it out from there. A lot of people actually, if you haven't like printed out your character sheet, in Alliance they require you to always have your character sheet on you. They call that your spirit. If you don't have your spirit, your character isn't alive, isn't there, right? So you have to have it on you. But it can be like handwritten, but it has to be physical. It can't be on your phone. It has to be a physical piece of paper that you carry with you at all times.
See, because at Mythic you can have it on your phone.
Yeah.
So I literally have a paper one and I have a backup one on my phone, which is the most accurate one. And I only have them printed off every few months because sometimes the changes are so minute that I don't need a new sheet every time I update. So, yeah, Mythic Realms, I think you can go to the website and make your character there too. You start with 20 skill points. I've never actually tried it.
You start with 20 skill points. It's in their rule book at the very back of the rule book. There's a quick start character guide, right? And it says, okay, choose one of these types of skills, choose one of these types of skills. But it doesn't go into depth or really explain anything. And you can't so you can print out a sheet and then hand fill it out, but that's really so that you can take that sheet to an open house and have them generate an actual character sheet for you.
My only understanding of LARP is that it's sort of like D&D in real life, sort of. So that's why I was asking about sheets. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Like, we appreciate any and all questions.
Yeah.
And you're right. Basically, it is like D&D, but you, instead of having your character say this, you say this. Instead of your character fighting, you fight.
Yeah. No dice rolls. It's all actual.
There's occasionally dice rolls for magic items, but that's more of like. That's like the whole WoW need over want, and then if you want it, you roll. Anyway, but you're rolling to see who gets the highest dice roll to see who gets the magic item. Because there's a lot of us in town, and a lot of us want the same magic item, and that has been the fair way that we have discovered of doing it.
Yeah.
So, and when it comes to the fact that you're role-playing everything, it can get pretty intense. Because if you have a... okay, cool. Yes, it is cool. It's very cool. So, if you have a specific, thanks for being here. By the way, I thought you were in church. So I'm. Oh no, that was that was somebody else. But you've been talking to me a lot lately too, Luke. So I appreciate that you've been here. So, what was it? Oh yeah. So like, if you have a very specific like idea set and everything in mind for your character, it does make it so that you might clash with other people. Do people cheat at LARP? Yes. Long story short, yes. There is a, kind of this whole thing of monitor yourself. Sometimes people cheat inadvertently because in the heat of battle, stuff happens and it's hard to keep track of everything that's going on. But then there are other things, woo for Stream Yay, Stream SLC. It doesn't happen very often, and if it is something major, we do have staff, and they can and they will step in.
Yeah.
I have been there for a conversation with another guy where it was pretty intense because he was cheating and he was consecutively doing it. I'm not going to go into details, but they were definitely on top of him. There was actually an event specifically where there was a monster walking around who was invisible. And there are ways to see things that are invisible. You have to have a spell. You have to have a headband that designates that you can see them. But there was very specifically a character who did not have that spell, who did not have that headband on, and he was watching this invisible character step for step. And he was an archer. And he waited until the thing became invisible and shot it immediately. And staff literally jumped in and was like, you couldn't see him. Your shot didn't count, and lose half of your abilities for the rest of this session. So, I mean, it was a pretty blatant one that there was a staff right there watching it, and he literally, if it is that blatant, they will jump into game, and they will address it.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because that ruins the immersion for everyone else, and it ruins the fun. Right. Yeah, thank God, yeah. So, I mean, there is cheating, but they do something about it. They're not just going to let it happen. Because, like something like that made that fight, if he had hit that guy, it made that fight a whole lot easier, and it took the challenge out for everybody else. And it's really hard for you to ignore the invisible guy that you can't see if there's another guy who's watching it step by, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of that whole mob mentality. When he starts doing it, you just inadvertently want to start doing it too. And it is really hard, because you can't physically go invisible. It's really hard to ignore an invisible person. And when you have one or two people that aren't doing it, it just makes it that much harder to continue to ignore them. Yeah. So, yes, cheating happens, but it is addressed. So
our staff works really hard to keep the game fair and to, keep cheaters reprimanded, and if they do not cease and desist, then they will be asked to leave.
And like Nevis said, most of the people are pretty mature and they don't cheat. And part of the reason why is because we've kind of instilled this honor code of monitor yourself. And it works in Mythic because people are harder on I feel like they're harder on themselves than somebody else would be. So and because they want the game to be fun.
Right.
They don't want it ruined for them by somebody else cheating, so a lot of people just follow the golden rule, that they want to be treated the way they want others to be treated. So they don't want the game ruined for them, so that they're not going to ruin the game for somebody else.
Yeah.
So it is very rare. There could be a lot more going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, but that's the way it's done too, is they don't want everyone to know that someone got reprimanded because that's just humiliating.
Right.
And so they do try to keep things like that on a one-by-one personal basis.
Yep.
So, you know, if you do cheat, like I said, there was that one event in game, but that's rare.
Yeah.
That's like the first time I've ever seen them in game be like, yo,
You can't do that.
no more of that.
Right.
Most of the time it'll be done at like an open house when you go in to update your character. When you go in and update your character, it's usually a one-on-one situation unless you allow someone to be in the room with you, and that's when they usually will address any and all concerns that they have with you or your character and you're playing. So it's kept pretty confidential. So that's another really good thing I like about it. So
Yeah, I think the biggest place where people cheat, but often inadvertently, is with their health. When you get hit in combat, and it's really, really hard to math in combat, but you have to, right? Like, so you're like, okay, so I have 20 hit points, right? And my armor makes it so that anything higher than a 5 that hits me gets reduced to just 5. So I'm like, all right, so I can get hit 4 times by something that's 5 or higher before I'm down if I don't parry or dodge or whatever else the damage, right? But sometimes when you're getting hit really fast, and a lot of people are hitting you, it's hard to keep track of the damage. So to deal damage to somebody, you swing your sword and you have to make a call, is what they say. It's a call, your damage, right? So you say 2 normal or 5 ice or, you know, whatever type of damage it is and how much damage it is.
my favorite kind of damage is 9 ice, because when you say that really fast, it just sounds like you're swinging for nice. So you're just being really nice to everybody. Because there was a player at one time who swung for 9 ice, and that is really hard to say slowly. And he would say it fast, and I swear to God, it sounded exactly like he was saying nice. So he's nice, 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 nice. So he was befriending the enemies to death. It was great.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
Twice is the other common
Yeah,
one.
two
Twice,
yeah.
twice.
Yeah, it just comes out really interesting when you're trying to say it really fast. But
Like trying to say 7 silver is really hard
Yeah.
in combat. A lot of times people will actually adjust. You can adjust your damage down from what you're supposed to be doing. 5 earth.
is it Firth? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I swing for 5 flame, and a lot of times it sounds like fame. Fame. So, fiber. Oh yeah, he does actually, because he can swing for earth occasionally, and sometimes when we're out of combat, he'll walk up to somebody and say fiber, because I have heard him do that. So that's kind of funny. So, yeah, so you get different, unique calls that happen because of damage types that make it sound really interesting. But so far, 9 ice has been my favorite, just because you're loving the enemies to death.
Nice.
Kill him with kindness. That's literally what he was doing. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yes, Nevitz game. Well, I'll let him answer that. But
Yeah, we LARP with Nevitz.
yeah, his character is Boji Smash. He is the brother of my character Jovi Smash. So, he has been playing longer than me. So, what were we talking? We were talking about something. I don't remember now.
We were talking about combat.
Oh yeah, combat with the hit points things and the cheating. It does happen, especially like over this. And Nevitz is right. He has a lot of hit points, and sometimes. So we have what are called PCs and NPCs. PC is what I am right now. I'm a playing character. NPCs are like everything that we interact with that's not another PC. So monsters, sometimes traders,
quest givers,
royalty. Those are all NPCs. And sometimes NPCs you can see that they will get physically flustered and frustrated when they can't kill you. It's just something that happens when you take on the mindset of an NPC. You want to kill the enemies. And there are times where they will hit you a lot. And if you don't go down, they kind of get frustrated. And so that's the kind of thing that happens with Nevitz. He has a lot of hit points. He also has magical armor that does effects that they're not aware of. And so sometimes if they hit him a lot, and I've been guilty of this myself, I'm like, why are you not dying? But that's just it. You don't know their stats, so you should never.
Or their skills and abilities, like hunker down makes it even harder to kill somebody.
Like this last weekender, I had this happen to me. I could literally see it on their faces. It was the second time the town got raided and we went and hid in the house. Well, I have a big shield.
I was NPCing that.
Yeah, I had a big shield, and I also was not wearing my armor, but because I had a magical armor at the point of time that made it look like clothes. In addition to that, I had just bought my magical armor that gave me extra hit points. So at this point in time, I had 26 hit points in this battle, and I was taking 5 damage. Well, no, I was taking full health because they were swinging for force. Force did overcome what's called, where she was talking about the 5 health. That's called your damage ceiling. So my armor also has a damage ceiling of 5, and normally I take 5 damage from all attacks above that. But they were swinging for force, which overrides that. So really, it only takes about 3 hits to take me down. But in that fight, I had 2 people behind me that were healing me faster than I was taking damage.
Yeah.
There was one character named Banner. He was healing me for 8 health. And there was another character behind me who was healing me for like 10 health. So like every time I got hit, I was being healed twice. So you can imagine that this is all happening simultaneously. So I'm taking 10 damage and then getting healed for like 28 damage. So I'm losing track of my health as well because they're not necessarily healing me every time I get hit. But I could see the NPC that I was fighting one-on-one was getting very frustrated that I was not dropping.
Well, see, and me being one of the NPCs that was actually fighting him as well. I think there was 2 of us that were trying to get past your shield.
Yeah, I was literally...
And I was, at first, I was like, oh my gosh, he should be down. And then I noticed Banner. And I was like, oh no, he shouldn't be down.
Yeah.
No. He's got heals coming at him left, right, and
center. I did. I had heals coming at me like crazy. It was a crazy fight. It was a genius idea to go into that house. Normally we're not allowed to fight in houses, but when I say house, I mean like tents. And canopies and stuff like that, but we're their houses. And we normally can't fight there unless the owner or an owner of the structure, I guess is what we specifically allows it. And Banner was the owner of the structure, and last time we fought out in the open, we got slaughtered. And so he specifically was like, let's fight in my house and let's funnel them in. And I was up front with the shield in the doorway. There was no other way in because there was a wall. I did my job. I stood there and I just took the hits and just let everyone else throw spells and deal the damage out.
Yep, he sure tanked that real good.
Yeah. Nevitz, unfortunately, got caught outside of the structure and got knocked unconscious and was bleeding. And that was
there were a few people that were stuck outside.
Well, in that fight, 5 people died.
Yeah.
One of them got herself killed. She was in the structure, and I guess she got sick of standing behind me because, it was sticks. Halfway through the fight, she just pushes past me and goes out into the open and immediately got swarmed by these golems and got killed.
She got down, but she did not spirit.
Wow.
So Styx is my oldest daughter, but
and that's her character name.
Mortimer, who is my oldest son, did spirit
in
that fight. Because Mortimer and the other young boy,
they were all hanging out in the tavern.
And they came out to try and help fight and just got swarmed. And nobody that was inside the house could get out.
No.
Because the NPCs that were playing, you couldn't move them. They were golems. And so all crowd control did not work on them. So you couldn't repel them. You couldn't push past them unless you could kill them and make a space.
Bleeding buddies. I like that. Yeah, she went down right next to him and she pushed past me and the golem. She just straight up, and I even yelled at her.
Because she's the one that actually ended up
What
killing
I don't
my golem.
Tenra, how does that work?
You have cheers.
Yay, cheers.
500.
500? Holy cow, thank you for that. How does that, I don't even know how that works. It says he shared it with chat. How does that work? Like,
There's a button over here I can hit on my side that allowed me to do it.
oh.
That's pretty
Since I know
cool.
you can't hear it.
No, I can't hear. Well, I can't see it either because I don't have the thing.
Yeah.
Normally, I see I can see the alerts. So, thank you for that, Jack Treats. That is awesome. I really appreciate that. Also, remember it is September, so subs are half price this month. Got to put that shameless plug in there. But yeah, that fight was intense, and me being the frontline fighter holding everyone at bay made it even more intense. Well, thank you for that, Jack Treats. He says we are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we know.
That's Leetah coming out right there.
Yeah.
But another thing that I was talking about, so battles definitely get intense, and cheating sometimes happen inadvertently. That's basically what we're trying to get across. But another place where it can get intense is when you have arguments with other characters. Because
Trying to separate that in character from yourself, it can get hard.
it can get hard, but it also, at least for me, okay, thanks, Nevitz. I'll be right back. All right, we'll see ya. So let's see. The RP is my favorite part of D&D, and it's obviously a huge part of LARPing. Is it basically required to dress the part? How expensive is LARPing in terms of getting into the game hobby? Okay, we'll talk about that now, and I'll get back to the conversations later. So, how expensive is it? It is as expensive as you want it to be.
Absolutely.
Like, I chose to wear armor. I don't know that I would recommend it for everybody because I did not wear it over this weekend because it was 90 plus degrees every single day. And this armor is 25 pounds made out of pure metal. It gets hot.
Yeah.
And I did not wear it because I would have gotten heat stroke a lot easier than I already did.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
I was in and out of character a lot, switching between piecing and end-piecing this weekend, which made it easier for me to wear my armor because I was only wearing it for short periods of time.
I did wear it Friday night because it was cool. We didn't start until like 8 p.m. It had dropped down in the temperatures. We were a slightly higher elevation, so I did wear my armor. But as far as it goes, yeah, they gotta watch me put my armor on, and that's how you know it's real heavy armor because I needed assistance. That's what I say. But anyway, I have to have assistance putting this on and taking it off. It doesn't just happen. It's impossible.
So as far as making LARPing like affordable, I actually have a YouTube video doing thrift store costumes. So the character I played yesterday for Alliance, I literally made the character the day before the LARP, decided what she was going to be. I went down to Savers and spent an hour and a half looking through every single item of clothing that they had to pick out what I was going to wear that fit the period enough and got across like my character's personality. They've got cheap boots there. Like, I can put together a LARP costume for a starter character for like $30, $40. If you don't already have stuff at your house that you've worn for Halloween or for a Renaissance festival or whatever. And that brings up another point too, though, is that LARPing, the LARPs that we're talking about are all high fantasy, mid fantasy LARPs. There are LARPs that are strictly steampunk. There's Dystopia Rising, which is post-apocalyptic. There's various styles of LARP too, depending on what suits your fancy.
Well, and another thing too, Luca Locke, is there is in an in-game mechanic called Mage Armor, where it is magical invisible armor. It can get pretty close to physical armor in ways of protection, but not. It will never be as good because they kind of want to reward people that do actually wear armor. But you can wear just clothes and buy magic armor and you will have protection. There are majority of the players in the game, that is the route they decide to go because they're not limited. Because I am physically limited in this armor. I can't bend over in the middle of combat to pick stuff up.
Yeah. Running uphill in full plate mail is hard.
Yeah, and I do kind of agree with Nevitz. Halloween costumes look good, but sometimes they don't stand up for LARPing. Sometimes they... But if you need
but it's a great place to start.
Yeah, if you need like a stopgap, something to wear for 1 or 2 months, you're probably okay. So you don't necessarily have to be a caster. We have a scout who she does melee combat, but she has magic armor. But yes, most casters wear magic armor, and that is a perfectly valid option. As for your question, Outlander, let's see. He asked, "Do you guys ever do one-offs that aren't part of your regular LARP?" When you ask that, like, do you mean that aren't part of the regular story? Or what do you mean specifically that aren't part of the regular LARP? Like,
yeah, because we've got several storylines that we follow, and different people will attend with different characters for different storylines, but they're all based in the same world. So,
we have missions all the time that aren't part of the, I guess you could say, overarching story plot. Sometimes they'll be part of like a mini subplot, but that's not always the occasion. Like there was one time, and I know I'm pretty sure Nevitz had to do this too, but there was one time where the mission was literally to go help a guy build a sword. Now I say that, make it sound very unimportant, but it was the Sword of Summer, which is one of the 4 seasonal armaments, which are very powerful, rare artifacts. But that had nothing to do with the overall story of the game. All it did was give him a really awesome weapon that he was able to then use with his character. But it had nothing to do with the story. Stuff like that does happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, a lot of the Wednesday adventures are almost essentially one-offs. They kind of save a lot of the story ones for weekenders. That's not always the case. Like, for example... Like, this is a good example of what became a subplot. We one time went to a enchanted forest, which was a mystic grove, literally to empower a rock so that a spell could be cast with it. We had to leave it there, and it had been left there previously. We were literally just going to go pick it up. Well, while we were there, we ran into the estate of a vampire who later reached out to us to help her defend her home from a bunch of orcs. Neither one of those had anything to do with the overall story plot, which was kill Tal Segor, but they were still events that made the game, that gave us something to do, and
was relevant
fed off
to
of
the
each
world.
other. But it was still relevant to the world.
Yeah.
That event, yeah. See, the event what I was talking about with the sword is why Boji runs around with the Hammer of Autumn. And as I spoke about earlier, that's why I am looking for the Shield of Spring. Because while we were on that adventure, we saw ghostly visions of all of these other weapons and armors being used. And we knew that they had existed at one point in time. And that's what set us on the path of wanting them. So there is another character too that wants the Axe of Winter. Those are the 4 armaments. There's the Shield of Spring, the Sword of Summer, the Hammer of Autumn, and the Axe of Winter. And supposedly of all 4 of these are brought together, a cataclysmic event, either good or bad, will happen. So we're trying to get all 4 together in the hopes that something good will happen and that they will empower each other and we will become an almighty force to be reckoned with. But we have no idea.
Yeah. That's pretty much, we never have any idea of what's actually going to happen when we pursue a goal.
So when you start a side quest, can you quit halfway? Yes.
Yeah, anytime.
But a lot of the characters have very personal qualms with quitting. In fact, one of the characters, if she gives her oath or her word, if she fails or breaks it, she has physical repercussions that happen to her. Mm-hmm. So
with side quests, a lot of how that happens, if you want to do something specific to your character, we run what's called downtime, and that's basically any time in between the actual LARP events, you send an email into Plot and say, hey, this is what my character is doing while we're not in game, right? And then you basically do an email role play with Plot. Sometimes that comes in to be an actual event that you participate in, or becomes a small side piece of an event. But anytime your character or you stops actively pursuing something, plot's not going to force you to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you drop the ball, they will let you drop the ball. Like if you decide to stop pursuing the Sword of Summer or whatever, right? Like they're okay, you stopped looking for it. That's it. That's the end. Right.
Okay, thanks for being here, Luca Locke. I appreciate it. So, like Nevin said, a minor event can shape a character. And that's exactly it. When we went to go help him forge the sword, I had no idea that it was going to shape this huge plot for me where I'm trying to get the shield. Nevitz had no idea at the time that it was going to make him search for the hammer. But once we saw them, we immediately wanted them, and that gave us plot. For example, when she talks about dropping the ball or stopping plot, I had a plot where I was specifically searching for a specific character to train me in my last level of Warden because he was a very strong character and there could have been additional benefits for having him. But I discovered that it would have taken a long time, at least a year, if not more, before he would be willing to train me. And I decided with my bonds that we didn't have that much time for me to get my last ability, so I just stopped. And nothing has happened. I do feel like I need to write the guy a letter and just explain myself, but I stopped and plot never pursued it past that point.
You can't write him a letter and explain it to him.
Oh, that's right. He's kind of...
He's
I don't
out
know
of
if he's
power at the moment. He's been depowered.
He's been powered down. We're talking about a golem. His name was the first guardian. And over this last weekend, we had a massive war trying to kill this undead the king of lich. Essentially the king of liches is the best way to call him.
Not the Lich King.
No, not the... yeah. But we won, but not without many casualties.
Yeah.
And one of the casualties, at least for now, was the first guardian. He fought him, and at the end of the battle, he powered down, which I don't think anyone has ever seen him powered. He's a very powerful golem, and he has never powered down, at least as far as anyone has ever known. So,
but nobody even knows what powers him.
Yeah,
so
nobody knows if he's dead,
ancient.
if he's recuperating. So I can't even talk to him at this point in time because, he's literally a stone statue right now, sitting in the middle of the ruins of Kaval.
3 of my trainers died this weekend, so there's that. One of them was pushed into some void, never to be seen again, to be tortured for eternity by Tal Segura. And the other one died. I'm assuming he came back through the circle. But yeah, it was quite a weekend.
Yeah, it was, and I agree with Nevitz. It's the most brutal story arc I've ever been involved in. And granted, I haven't been involved in many, but we don't know, Jack Traits. We don't know. He may be able to be resurrected. He may be permanently powered down. We don't know enough about him to even begin to help him recover if he can recover.
Right, and because he's not like a sentient creature, it's not like he could have told us about himself, right?
Yeah.
He can't have a conversation. He takes commands, he does training, he does basically what he's programmed to do, right? Because he's a golem.
Yeah, so he doesn't operate on the same spectrum as I mean, he is sentient, I guess you could say in that, because he was self-aware.
Yeah.
And he was making other golems, but we don't know what's going on with him at this current point in time. And it is really cool. Like, the fact, like, to me, as in, I guess, doomish, I don't know, like, as terrible as it was that he got powered down, it was a cool aspect of the game that I had never thought of prior. And I'm like, this is cool. This is showing how scary this guy really is. And, I honestly feel that someone's going to start a story where we find out how to reactivate him. I do. I feel like, or
there's always groups of people that are doing research into the golems that you are.
Yeah.
And so there are people that do know at least something that can actually look into it.
Yeah. So as our viewer here said, there are always people that have been researching into the ruins of Kaval and the guardians and golems of Kaval. And so they might come to us in a few months down the road saying, hey, we know what's going on with him and we know how to fix him. That's my hope, because he's a very powerful ally that has kept the Undead Kingdom out of the ruins of Kaval, which they have been trying to gain control of for as long as the world has existed. And Nevitz is right earlier, I don't know if anybody caught it, but Mythic Realms has had a story plot that has been going for at least 20 years, if not more.
Yeah, so the thing with the golem is like, okay, maybe we don't figure it out this year or next year or 5 years from now, but maybe in 7 years we figure it out, right? Like, that's the type of dedication to this world that our plot team has, is that they're like, that's fine, he's dead now, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take 2 or 3 months or 6 months. It's going to take
Yeah, they may have, when they determined that he powered down, they probably at that point in time determined how long it will take for us to fix him. I would not be surprised. That is how hold on, let's see. That's his armor boy. I don't get it.
I told him earlier that you brought your own armor boy.
The background voice. Yeah, that's my armor boy. Yes, that is Divas Calhoun in the background that you can hear. He came to hang out with us and watch. So we have another viewer without having another viewer. So I should make him log into a computer and watch me that way just to give me another viewer. But it's all good. We've got plenty of people here. This has already gone way better than I anticipated. So we've still got some more time to fill. But so let's see. Anybody else have any other questions? Told you so. Oh, that's yeah. He helps you. Well, usually I have Boji help me with my armor, but Boji, I did not bring him today. So I will definitely be interviewing him, and he may become a permanent co-host on the show too. We'll have to see. It kind of depends on where I go with this. So, but he's been very helpful to me in putting my armor on. We kind of help each other. We're each other's squires. Although I did have her daughter as my squire for a while.
Yeah.
I would just say, hey, squire, and she would come and help me put my armor on and my cape and everything. I'm not wearing my cape right now because you guys wouldn't be able to see it anyway, but
it's a pretty cool cape.
Go into the combat mechanics more. Like,
how combat works?
Do you have like a specific aspect of combat that you think we should cover, or like there's a lot of abilities. I don't know that we should go into all of them. Like she did talk about earlier about Hunker Down. Hunker Down is an ability that lets you lower your damage ceiling by 2, minimum of 3. So you can never go below 3. So for example, my armor provides me a damage ceiling of 5. If I activate Hunker Down, my damage ceiling becomes 3. But Hunker Down only lasts for 5 minutes, and I can only do it, I think, twice per day. So it's one of those things that I save for a fight that's like a boss fight.
We should talk about spellcasting.
Yes.
I think people probably don't understand how that functions.
Yeah, and we should have done that earlier because I know Lukalak was talking about spellcasting, so I feel bad. But so, spellcasters have these little items that I actually have one.
We call them spell packets.
It's in the. You can just bring in my whole toad if you want. It's probably easier. So
just bring it all in.
They're called spell packets, and they're little cloth bundles with rubber inside them.
Basically like a beanbag.
Yeah.
But so at
smaller and
Mythic,
softer.
We use shredded tire rubber to fill ours. Most LARPs use birdseed. But we play in-game for, indoors for a good, half the year. And it was starting to attract rats because we were inevitably leaving birdseed around because sometimes the packets burst open or whatever. And so we were attracting a lot of rats. So we switched to shredded tire. And basically you take a 6x6 square of fabric, you dump some rubber in it, and then you tie it up into a ball, basically, and you use those to cast your spells. Yes, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
So the way it works is that you'll have, if you're a spellcaster, you will want a lot of these spell packets, and you have different elements that you can cast, and you call the damage as you throw it at the enemy, or prior to. Most people will call it and then throw it. For example, did you find it? Oh, that's my bigger one. That works too. So this is a spell packet. This is my backup one. I mean, there's not a whole lot to see. Like I said, it's a bundle of cloth, but it's really soft. It's softer than your typical beanbag.
Yeah.
You just throw this at people, but it is hard enough that most of the time they can feel it.
Yeah.
Just don't aim for the face.
And it's heavy enough that you can get some good distance with it.
Yeah, they'll cut through the air. So, yeah, sometimes people have to count. Like a lot of the at-will abilities, you have to count to 5. So, like I summon Fire 1, I summon Fire 2, I summon Fire 3, I summon Fire 4, I summon Fire 5, and then throw it to burn you 6. So that's kind of how spells work.
And the same thing, so healing uses spell packets as well because it's technically magic. So any healing you do, you don't have to throw it at them, but you have to hold it in your hand and touch the person.
Like for example, I have gloves, and in my gloves I have a spell packet permanently there. So whenever I touch, actually it's on the back, but it still counts because I'm touching them. So I most of the time will just touch people to heal them, but I do have this backup one in case someone's a little farther away and I need to throw it to heal them.
Yeah, you can throw to heal.
I can
it's
throw.
Just not necessary.
The problem is that this is in a bag with way too many items that I can't find it quick enough. So I need to get another bag of just a few spell packets. Cause
that actually brings up another good point as far as costuming is concerned, is having easy access to whatever you're going to need in combat, because you never want to be fumbling through bags and pouches while you're trying to heal somebody that's dying, or trying to get this monster away from you or whatever. You have to be very smart in how you use pouches and bandoliers and things like that to have quick access to whatever you need. Like this vest, actually, I just found when I sat down today, has one of my consumable items. We use popsicle sticks so that when it's used, you can break it to show that it's been used. This is a shadow polish, which allows me to use my damage ceiling against drain. But as an undead, that heals me, so I don't need it, which is why it's now expired. But I found it in my pocket. I don't wear this vest very often.
Spells do have to be physical. So, because nobody has perfect aim, and we can't just say every time you... because the other thing is that there are multiple NPCs, and they don't know necessarily who's being targeted unless they get hit with this.
Right.
So, I mean, they can't just call damage and just hit every NPC all at once. So, this is a way to simplify it so that it is a lot easier in combat to know who's being hit for how much damage.
Now, there is occasionally, on the plot side of things, the NPC side of things, they will do a pointed spell. And that's because these spells are, ambient magic or whatever. And they'll just point to you, they'll say your name, and they'll tell you how much damage you took or what spell effect you took.
Like, for example, over the weekend, we had an ambient spell that was teleporting us all around the battlefield.
Yes.
Prior to the battle, they broke us up into 3 groups, and you gave your group a number, and they told you where the designated teleport locations were. And in the middle of battle, they would shoot, like, for example, they would shout, Group 2, high. And everybody in Group 2, no matter where they were, had to run to a certain point on the map, which is where they just got teleported to, and then they had to get back into battle. So spells aren't always physical. When they're coming from a PC, they're always going to be physical.
Yeah.
So I wear armor, so I tell NPCs to throw them hard at me, so I feel through the armor.
Yeah. And sometimes... That's another point with spell packets. Some people get frustrated using spell packets.
I don't like being a spellcaster because they don't feel them.
Right, because people can't feel them. But if you can ever get eye contact with the person that you threw it at, you just say, did you take that damage? And then they'll say, oh, did I, or I evaded it or whatever.
So how do area of effect spells that affect a group work? You will have a handful of packets, like 10, 20, or 30, which will be designated prior by the spell. And then you literally just throw
Chuck
them. Some people have gotten really good at throwing them in a spread so that it does actually act like an area of effect. But even if you take all of them and just standard overhand throw, they will split up and cover an area.
Yeah.
But
the other thing with AoE spells, though, is if somebody throws like a Holocaust or whatever, forced Holocaust, burn you 100, right? Or any other like mass packet spell.
like,
if you get hit with more than one packet,
you're dead.
You actually only take one packet of damage. You don't take multiple because it's the one spell. So I mean, there's like little quirky things about the way things work. Yeah, Dragon's Breath.
That's what I was going to like that one is a 30 packet and you literally just yell like burn Dragon's Breath, burn you 100, and then you just chuck 30 packets all at once. And it works really well. Like they do spread more than you would think that they would, but they do spread out very well. So thank you for hosting me, Winged Vox. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. You're always here every Sunday. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you're here for this special first event too. So I appreciate that. So let's see, what else did he want us to talk about? Spellcasting, calling damage. So yeah, I mean, like, there are 4 damage types normally. So Jack traits, this LARP stream specifically, I don't know if I'm going to do it every Sunday or every other Sunday. This is the first one. I think I probably because I'm going to run out of people at some point. I mean, we're always going to have stories to tell, though.
I don't know. I could probably keep you pretty stocked
if you
wanted.
So, I'm thinking of doing this probably every week, at least for the first little bit. So, I just got a thumbs up for that. So, there are plenty of people within Mythic that I can reach out to interview, and I do want to reach out to some of the other ones so that we can kind of get their voice in on this. But yeah, so as far as streaming this specifically, this LARP conversation, this will be every Sunday for at least 2 hours. I mean, if we end up going longer, that's great. As far as I also stream on Thursday nights. I call that my Throwback Thursday, and I stream typically, I don't always, but I typically will stream old school RPGs. Like I'm going to start Wild Arms, and I'm going to only play it on stream. I asked because I love this. Thank you so much for doing it. Well, as much as I appreciate that, this wasn't my idea. I am glad that I'm doing it, but it was actually the person who's running the camera and everything else. Her streaming name is Mr. Cheyenne. This was actually her idea. We talked about it a little bit because I was kind of in a lull, and I wanted to do something, and there she is. She's waving. So, and this is my first attempt at it, and it has honestly gone as well as I had hoped. So, and I'm glad you like it because it's kind of a niche. Not a lot of people know a lot about LARP, and I wanted to kind of break through some of the myths and legends and some of the misconceptions about what LARP is and isn't. So, and I felt like this was a good forum. So, yes, thank you, Mr. Cheyenne, I call her Mistress. It's a joke from the very first time she came into my stream. So, Mr. Cheyenne, this is her idea. So, she's like, why don't you talk about LARP? That's something unique that you do that not a lot of people do. And immediately a light bulb went on, and I was like, that's a great idea. So,
absolutely. And
I'm glad that you're liking it. I really am. So, that makes me want to do it more. So, and for those that aren't here, we're going to try to turn it in. That's why it's a podcast and game show, because I am going to try to edit the audio afterwards. We're going to work on that together and actually make it a podcast for download so that you can hear us later. So, I'm trying to hit kind of 2 fields. So, but it's an experiment, and we'll see how it works. But so far, it's going good. So, But back to the damage. There's typically 4 types of damage, although there's for PCs. There's a lot more out there. There's earth, air, fire, water. But air is usually lightning damage or shock you specifically. So I summon air 1 through 5 to shock you, whatever. I summon earth to stone you. I summon fire to burn you. And then, what did I forget? I summon water to freeze you. But there are other damage types. For example, there's cleanse. Cleanse is used most often against undead. Because it deals double damage. And since she's undead, she does take... So we have people in our party that throw cleanse. And sometimes they don't have the greatest aim. And if they accidentally hit her, she takes double damage.
Yeah.
And it's a real quick way to kill her. And because armor... Does armor protects against thrown spells or no?
No. So...
Yeah, so she takes all of it. She doesn't get that.
Yeah, I take all of it. I actually... Me personally, I have a magic item that allows me to use my armor ceiling against cleanse.
Oh, nice.
So, which helps.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's the bad guys trying to hurt the rest of the party that end up healing me. Because they're throwing things that'll hurt everyone else. And if I stand in the way, it just heals me.
Yeah, specifically nice. Drain. Drain is an ability that hurts you and heals them at the same time. Yes. Yeah, it's the opposite of cleanse, but because she's undead, Drain heals her. And so there are a lot of combats where you will specifically see her like diving in front of spell packets as they're screaming Drain. And it's kind of funny because that's the exact opposite reaction from everybody else in the party.
So this past weekender, we actually fought some really like big, badass undead. And one of them, we killed them, but undead never just die, right? They never just die. So we killed it. They killing blowed it, which means like they're taking it. It's no longer just bleeding out. Like it's dead. Like, right? It's on the verge of like dead. And
that's one thing that does differ from D&D, because in D&D, once you drop an enemy to less than 0 hit points, they're done.
Right.
Not in Mythic. Once they're below 0 hit points, and this is for PCs too, they start bleeding. Yeah. And you bleed for so long, but if someone heals you during your bleed, it's a whole lot easier to heal someone from their bleed count than it is from their death count. Same thing goes for enemies. So he can walk up to an undead and touch them and say, drain you 10, and he just healed them for 10 hit points, and they're back in the battle.
Yeah. So
that's why you want to, as fast as you can, go up to them and put them and killing blow them to put them in their death count, because there's a lot less things that bring you out of your death count, and they usually are a lot more expensive, as in daily uses to use.
So this particular undead, when he died and they put him in his death count, he actually reformed from that as a shade, and the only thing that he could cast was Obliterate. And now, Obliterate is a spell that takes you all the way down to your bleed count.
Like, not taking you to your death count.
No, Obliterate puts you in your bleed count.
But it ignores all your hit points. It literally just says insta-bleed.
It's an instant you're down, right? Yeah. And there were like 6 other PCs around this shade when he did that, and he's just throwing them. Obliterate, Obliterate, Obliterate. And I just stood there and started swinging at him. 8 magic, and he's saying greatly reduced, which means that he's got an effect on him that reduces the amount of damage that I'm doing down to 1 instead of 8.
How much were you swinging for it?
I was swinging for 8 magic, and he was greatly reducing it to 1. And so, but the only thing he can cast is Obliterate, which for alive people kills them instantly, but for dead people,
for 99% of the party,
for dead people, it heals me to full and gets rid of any impairing effects that I have on me, right? So I just stood there. Everyone else was dead around me, and just one magic, and he's just casting Obliterate at me, and we just sit there until he finally dies. I was so out of breath. One magic. You know, and we'd already been fighting for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that last fight was crazy.
Horrible.
Yeah, I agree. Yay, air. Go Storm Dragon. Yay, air. And then, Nevitz, how long... I know, but I want you to tell chat, How long is your bleed count? Because it is long. As well as your death count. They are both extremely long, which is good for me because I have bonded him as well, of course, because he's my brother.
Right.
And as an ability that I have is that I can swap my life with anyone in their death count. So I go to my death count and they instantly come back up at full health. But it's good to know that he has a long one so I can take my time trying to use other methods to get him up if I need to.
Or getting other people up first.
Or getting other people up first. Like her.
Well,
which I failed at this weekend.
I have a
Sort of.
7-minute bleed count
Sort
or
of.
death count now, so yeah.
I would have succeeded. I should have just yelled it anyway, and then you could have told me no effect or not. Like, the more I think about it, I should have just yelled it.
Nah, it's fine. No, that eviscerate was brutal.
Yeah. She got hit with a dire eviscerate, which I cannot do anything to defend. So Boji bleeds.
Nobody can defend against a dire.
But I have special abilities that help me defend my bonds, but nothing I had defended that either. Yeah, so Divas bleeds for 5 minutes, or bleeds for, and then you die for 160 seconds. So what is that? Like 2.5 minutes?
Yeah.
And then Boji bleeds for 3 minutes and dies for 9 minutes. And if I recall, as long as you still have this item, you are aware of everything in your bleed count. Is that still correct? Like, normally you're not because you're, like, unconscious and bleeding. But I believe Boji or Nevitz has a magic item that lets him be aware of everything while he's bleeding. Do you still have that? I think he lost it. I think it was something that was given to him by... Yeah, it was given to him by... who were the counts? The Lord
Un?
Lord Dan Brock.
Oh, Lord Dan Brock.
I think it was given to him from Lord Dan Brock, and it was a special item that Lord Dan Brock kept re-empowering for him. And so when Lord Dan Brock died, he did not pass those secrets on to anybody else. So...
Yeah.
When it expired this time, it came back at like half strength, and I believe that's the right item. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so that's another thing too about this game is that magic items can drastically change battle for you specifically.
Yeah, so the way that I look at magic items is like you have your rule set, you have your character's abilities. Magic items alter those, right? There are exceptions to the rules. So like I only have 3 evades a day, right? And so you can get a magic item that gives you another evade. So it's altering the rules. You have your base rules and then your magic items tweak that, right? Like you're unconscious when you're bleeding, but this magic item allows you to still know what's going on.
Yeah, he did. It was from Lord Dan Brock, and that item increased his bleed and death count.
Nice.
So yeah, he had a lot. So he had a lot more than he has now, but he still has a lot. Partially because he has Survivor, which is an ability, and because he learned the Warden Survivor, which have you bought yet?
No.
Buy that, dang it! It would have helped.
Okay.
So
I know, would not have helped.
Not in that fight, it wouldn't. Dire Eviscerate literally says you're in your death count for 1 minute, and that's it. Regardless of any other abilities you have, it says, screw you, go by.
Yeah, it gives you basically 1 minute to live. And when you're behind the front, like behind the enemy's front line, and people are trying to fight their way to you, 1 minute is not a lot of time.
And that's why she died. It was
That's
because
why I died.
I originally was like, okay, I need to get to her with to get to her with lay on hands, and I was trying to go all because what happened was, and I'll get to your question here in a second, Miss Cheyenne, because that's a good question. Is she went down, and there was literally about 2 feet in between us. And the second she went down, one of the guys running the game ran between us with blue tape, which represents a magical barrier. And so literally the second she went down, a magical barrier was erected between me and her, so I could not touch her. So then I was trying to go all the way around the front line to get to her to use the lay on hands, when the whole time I had an ability that I talked about earlier, the death swap, where I could have just looked at her and said, death swap. And I was panicking, and I didn't think about it, and by the time I thought about it, it was too late. So that's what ended up happening to her. It was a combination. I should have just called it anyway, because if it was no effect, I would have gotten it back. So she started taking off her armor prematurely, and so I assumed she was dead.
3 seconds.
5 seconds. You said
Whatever,
5
5
seconds.
seconds
Well, 5
premature me.
seconds would have saved your ass.
I mean, it's true. 5 seconds sometimes.
Like,
really
so I looked over at her and saw her taking her armor off, and I assumed that her death count was already over, and so I was like, oh, shit. But I should have just called the ability anyway, because then she could have told me no effect, and I would have never wasted it. But Miss Cheyenne asked a great question. Can you start out as an NPC, or do you have to start as a PC and work up to being an NPC? Yes, you can start off as an NPC. In fact, that's what I did for a very long time, which is why I came into game as a 200 skill point character. I built up my points over like a year and a half of NPCing. Now, here's the thing. When you have a strong character, they still make you play your character at least once as a beginning 20 skill point character. Yep. So you cannot come in as this big 200 character your very first time. You have to at least come in once as a 20 skill point character to experience the scares of being 20 skill points. And the event that me and Nevitz chose to be 20 skill points was one of the scariest events of the whole year. And the whole time we were just like running around screaming like, don't die, don't die, don't die. Like, we picked the worst event to come into at 20 skill points.
And it did die.
No, we didn't die on that one.
You did die at that one.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
We were Jack sacrificed you guys.
Yeah, we got our we were bodyguarding someone. And the whole time I was screaming, "We're running into a trap! We're running into a trap! We're running into it!" Did I just move the camera?
Oh!
Yes. The whole time.
Good job.
The whole time I'm screaming, "We're running into a trap! We're running into a trap!" And they're like, "No, we're not." I'm like, "Yes, yes, we are!" Because the whole time these enemies have been fighting us, and now they're fleeing for a reason. And then, sure enough, we turned a corner and got surrounded and cut off from the rest of the party.
That is hilarious.
And the guy we were bodyguarding went, "Oh, I'm out." And then he blinked or something. I don't even remember what he did. Yeah. And the two of us just got murdered. And then we got drug off to a secret room where they let us slowly die.
Yeah, being drug away and hidden
Is
by
the
the
worst.
NPCs is the worst. And another common way people die. Because then nobody can find you. Or get to you in time. Oh.
You can push it back if that's what you need to do.
There we go.
Camera was hit by a dire slay. Man, if I can cast dire slays with my hand, I wouldn't, because necromancy is illegal.
That's right, necromancy is illegal.
Dire's not dead.
I mean,
Dire
depending on
is
where you are.
necromancy. Oh
Necromancy
no, dire is not necromancy, is it?
Dire is not necromancy, no.
It's a primordial ability.
Yeah. Yep.
Good old Dr. Pepper. Camera down. Haha, yeah. Camera went down. Sorry, guys. I got a little too excited.
It's a different table now. You can shake that one all you want.
Yeah, now you can pound the table.
So, yeah. But are there necromancers?
Yes.
There are. There are necromancers, but they are very under the radar because the kingdom that we are under is called Falcon Crest. And in Falcon Crest, necromancy is illegal. We do not always adventure in Falcon Crest, so people will use necromancy outside of Falcon Crest. Is it always legal? No. But there's less...
Chance of being caught?
Not necessarily less chance of being caught, but there's less chance of being reported.
Right.
Because they don't have... Like, we have a sheriff of Falcon Crest in our town at all times who can literally say, "Oh, you just cast necromancy, here's your punishment." When we are in other countries, we don't necessarily have someone in our party that is designated as a sheriff or whatever they... So, a law enforcement, yeah. We don't have a law enforcement agent in our party, so they are more likely to get away with it, and they usually do.
Yeah.
So, but there are necromancers, and not all necromancers are in the form that you think. Like, one of them is a thief. who is a vampire who now can cast necromancy.
Wait, which one? Are you talking about Straza?
Yeah, Malstraza.
Say, wait, which one?
Yeah,
because we had a conversation.
Yes, it is part of the game. They don't necessarily like raise undead like you could in a video game.
Right.
But they have different abilities like drain and pass and siphon and stuff like that.
Fear
And terror. Those are specific to like necromancers. So
yeah.
So yes, necromancy is in the game. It is frowned upon by most players, sometimes it's frowned upon by players that use it just so they can pretend.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a running joke for a while. I had a magic item that the representation for it was a green pendant with 3 green skulls on it. And for the longest time, people were like, "Oh, he's an underground necromancer." Because here I am, like the holiest of holy characters, and I look like it with my shining blue armor and gold on it. And so people were always joking that it would be the funniest thing if I really was a necromancer, just literally hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, everyone's like, "Oh, he's a necromancer," even though I wasn't. They just gave me crap about it.
Right.
I no longer have that magic item, and I was kind of glad to be rid of it so that I no longer got heckled for being a necromancer.
Yeah.
Evil NPC necromancers do raise the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's they can't like just manifest it out of nowhere. They have to have an actual body to do it.
Right.
That's how it differs from a video game. Like in WoW, I literally could just go 4 skeletons.
Right.
You can't do yeah, you can't do that in LARP. There has to be bodies. Yeah, there has to physically be bodies there. So
Yep, as undead, a lot of people
They played more
assume
towards the Diablo version of necromancy, where they actually have to have a physical corpse to be able to raise them.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was just saying that it's more like Diablo, where you have to have a physical corpse in order to be able to raise an undead. Yeah, so as an undead myself,
she gets heckled.
I get heckled a lot. A lot of people don't like me. Some people in town don't trust me. I was enslaved by some evil undead this past weekend, which basically means that I am 100% under their control until I'm cured. And a couple of the people in town were mad at me because they thought that I was not enslaved and that I was just turning on them of my own free will. And so it's really interesting to play this dynamic of the White Knight, right? The person that does good at all turns and is always looking for the greater good and trying to help everybody out, and being undead and having necromancy so distrusted, and people are like, how can you be undead and a White Knight? Aren't those things opposite? I said, no, because necromancy is a tool. It is not in and of itself inherently good or evil. But
Boji's got your back. He says actions speak louder than physical appearance.
Yeah, thanks, Boji. I appreciate
Jovi's got her back too, and I've let it be known, especially very, very much because I bonded her. So people know very much so that I've got her back. And supposedly there are murmurs from the common folk about how I am not a true knight of the land because I have bonded an undead.
undead. Oh man.
So
yeah.
There were a lot that for the longest time when I first showed up, supposedly there were rumors that I'm like the true knight of Falcon Crest, because on my cape, it's a blue cape with gold embroidery that has the Falcon Crest logo on it. My shield has a Falcon Crest logo on it. My colors are the color scheme of the Falcon Crest Kingdom. So for the longest time, people were like, oh, he is the true knight of Falcon Crest. He embodies what Falcon Crest is. But now there are murmurs that I no longer do that because I am allied myself with an undead.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, to them I say pish. The king is bonded by an undead himself, so you have nothing to speak about. So if anything, I totally embody it.
Actually, isn't the king's role different backwards?
Yeah, it's the exact opposite, but it's still the same thing. There's still a bond between an
White Knight that's bonded by an undead.
Undead.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
Right?
We have the exact opposite role from the king and his bond.
Yeah.
And her bond died this last weekend. Or your teacher.
My teacher.
And the king didn't die. The prince did.
The prince.
We don't know if he came through the circle yet.
Yeah.
If he didn't, it's going to be interesting because he was just named heir to the throne. And if he's dead, they're going to have to name a new heir to the throne. So these are the kind of things that happen in game. There is political intrigue. When they were about to name an heir, there was a lot of political intrigue that you didn't have to be involved in if you didn't want to.
Right.
See, how long does it take to get ready for LARP? That depends on your costume.
And it also depends on, like, what aspect are you talking about? Are you talking about how long does it take for plot to get ready for LARP, or as an individual player to get ready for LARP? Are we talking about a full weekend event, or are we talking about a day event?
As far as like getting ready for the plot side, the team for that, I will have some to interview later from plot so we can ask those kind of questions to them. As for like an individual session on Wednesday, it takes me and Boji almost the full 30 minutes of prep time to get ready by the time we both get our armor on. I'm not wearing my bracers or my greaves. I should be. I forgot about them. But
Or your coif.
or my no.
No, your coif.
Oh yeah, I'm not wearing my coif. If I would have to twist my whole body to talk to her if I was wearing my coif because unfortunately it gets caught on my scales.
And so you can't
so
turn
I
your
can't
head.
turn my head at all. So yeah, I have a full-on get-up that takes me a while to get on. But you, as she was talking about earlier, if you're trying to just start a character, you could just go real cheapo to the thrift store, find a costume, you don't even have to come to an open house necessarily. There's always numbers of people you can reach to make a character. You could decide Tuesday that you want to play LARP, at least with Mythic Realms, and assuming that you can get someone to make you a character, you could be playing the day after Wednesday night and be ready to go.
Yeah, you actually don't even have to have an official character sheet or anything like that to come into
Don't
game.
they have starter sheets that they just give you?
So there's a sheet that you can print off that's in the back of the rule book that you can fill out, and that's all you need to be able to start playing.
You don't even have to have a character sheet. As long as you have a notepad and you can write down
Yeah.
Right.
and how many uses you have of it.
Yeah, you just need to have something written down on paper of this is what you can do, so that if anybody asks you, hey, how did you avoid that damage or whatever, you can pull out your sheet and say, this is what I did. And that's just to, keep people honest and avoid cheating and things like that. That's the whole purpose of keeping the character sheet on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to come play, like for me, like with the whole makeup, the first several times I did my makeup, it took me probably an hour to do my makeup. But I do it every week, sometimes twice a week. And I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. And it took me 10 minutes to put on my makeup before coming down to this because I just know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Right?
So, like, as far as being a brand new person trying to get into LARP, at least with Mythic Realms, it could take you less than 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's pretty. We try to make it as easy as possible for beginners to get into it. But yeah, as far as like each session to get ready, takes a good 20-30 minutes for me and Boji, which makes it hard on weekenders because sometimes I won't have my armor on and they're like, we're leaving in 10 minutes to go fight. And I'm like, well, I need longer than that to get my armor on.
Oh yeah, I've been teleported while holding my gear because trying to put plate mail on when they're like, we gotta go now, is like, okay, well, you're going to be dressing me when we're fighting things because I can't put this on that fast.
So that's one of the reasons I say armor is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I like the protection it offers me, but it's hot, it's restrictive of your movement, and it's not easy to put on.
Yeah.
And as you can kind of see with this, with my padded little gambeson for my neck and my chest, or my neck and my shoulders, I still can't move my neck as much as I want, and the whole time it's rubbing underneath my chin, so it's not very comfortable. And if you can't see, I've got a scale right here that is constantly sticking straight up into my armpit, which I need to find the tools and fix it. So I have a constant reminder that, hey, I'm wearing armor because here's a thorn literally in your side from your armor.
Just asked if your armor was custom made.
That is nice armor. Is it custom made? Thank you at Nevitz Game. It is custom made. We bought the materials. My good buddy here who's watching, Divas Calhoun is his character name. He bought all the materials, and me and Gaming Mama put it together. I came up, and it has been modified since its very first, so this is like version 3.0, I guess you could say. This is like the third or fourth time it's been modified, because originally this gold, yeah, that's where it is, was not as prevalent. It was just kind of around the whole neck, but I wanted there to be more of like a triangle. And originally the neck was circular, and then it was square, but it was too big. So yeah, this is the fourth iteration of this armor. So it's been modified a few times, but I believe, other than taking care of this one scale that's stabbing me in the arm, this will be the last modification that we need. Oh, and I also had it lengthened, and it actually covers my waist now. So yeah, this is the fourth iteration of the armor. So how heavy is your armor? It is 25 pounds. It was 20, and then when I lengthened it and added on the waist protection and it kind of comes down almost to my knees. It added another 5 pounds.
Is it aluminum or is it steel?
So the chainmail is steel. The scales are aluminum.
Gotcha.
I'm glad they are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be way worse.
Yeah.
So
but
even
we missed a question from Cheyenne.
We did? Where?
Yeah. It says, what does your significant other think of you playing LARP? How many players are families that play together?
Well, there's a family. Actually, there are two people. Oh.
There's quite a few families, actually.
Did Becca and Frank meet at Mythic?
Yes.
So there are two families that actually met at Mythic and became married. Is there? They met there too?
Yeah.
So we have three families that met at Mythic and they met each other there and they got married. So I mean, there's three families right there. She plays with her family. As she talked about earlier, her kids play.
My husband plays occasionally.
Her husband plays occasionally. As far as me, my wife does and doesn't like it. She gets mad when I take time off for the weekenders, but she doesn't really care too much. So, let's see. Nevitz says his body armor is leather and is almost 20 years. His armor is old. It was a hand-me-down, and there was work done on it, but it fits his character very well. Jack Traits, did you ever want to upgrade your armor, Nevitz? That's a good question. I know that me and him have talked about it a little bit, but I'll let him answer that because that's for him directly. But so yeah, my son loves it. He's only 3.5 now, and when he came last year to all of the weekend events, he had his own little knife that was given to him, and he's running around swinging at people. And there's other kids there too. It's becoming, because of the families that run it and everything, it's becoming more family friendly. There's a lot of kids running around.
We do. We try to do at least one kids module every weekender. Sometimes we get 2 or 3 in now. We've got a specific husband and wife couple that run those. For young kids. They have a daughter who's 12 or 11 or 12. And so they wanted to be able to include her in it at a level that was appropriate for her. And so they've designed kid modules for the kids.
I think there's about 6 families that all like
husband and
wife and children play. So
yeah,
it is very family oriented. At least Mythic Realms is. I can't speak for the others, but especially because a lot of the people on staff are a family now that met there. They are a lot more family oriented and think about it a lot more now that they are. And a lot of us are getting older at the exact same time too. So it's kind of funny to, like, this year they were like, We will not be fighting after 10 p.m. on the weekenders, and we will not start past 9 a.m. That used to not be a thing. Like, they used to go...
Yeah, at Alliance, like I said, I was at Alliance yesterday. I got up at 6:30 to get ready. I got there at 8 in the morning, and didn't leave until 5:30 in the morning this morning. So that's honestly how most LARPs run, is they go late, because the general idea is at night is when bad things happen, right? And for the summertime, fighting after the sun sets is a lot better for your hydration levels than fighting in the sunshine.
And with Mythic, it doesn't end at 10. It's just combat ends at 10. Like 2 weekenders or 3 weekenders ago, for me specifically, I stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m. because I was in game pursuing plot, talking to characters, just role-playing and hanging out. Are there citizens in LARP? Yes, there are. Like, for example, Prince Eric. He was never a PC. He's just a citizen that was made by the game. This last weekender, she played a citizen who came into town to have us rescue her child from demons. And I believe it was you later who gave us a demon baby.
Yeah. I mean, I was marshalling that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So because we helped her, we ended up with a demon baby in town. I don't know the full.
You're not going to know the full thing.
And it was creepy. Like, it was an action. There was like this creepy porcelain doll that looked. Yeah. It was,
I made that.
Yeah. I
made that.
It was creepy. It looked And there was one kid who became immediately infatuated with it and was walking around town with it like the whole time. And I was like, dude, get that thing away from me. I'm already afraid of porcelain dolls. And this one actually looks like what I think they all are anyway. Get it away.
It was so good.
But yeah, so I don't know the full details because I didn't do that quest. I just know that we helped her out and then we ended up with a demon baby in town. So this is what happens in LARP.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun. And you know, some of the like emotional role play, speaking of like, I got to play the mother of, you know, a daughter who'd been abducted by demons, basically, right?
Yeah, she's like,
and I got to have a role play between me and the NPC that was playing my daughter, which actually happened to be my daughter in out of game. But we had this whole thing where we were talking to each other, but I could tell that she was possessed by a demon, and so I couldn't just like go save her or anything, and the PCs were holding me back, and I'm sobbing trying to get to her, and she's screaming, you know, like being abducted by this demon and transforming into a demon, and she's screaming and I'm sobbing, and the PCs are like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It was magic. I mean, being able to like bring that level of role play into it, to like, that's really for me what immerses, when you can bring the emotion into a role play, it really immerses you a lot.
So
more.
What we were laughing at is that Nevitz said, now I know where that thing came from, and he said it's terrifying, and it was terrifying. Mr. Cheyenne asked, what's your favorite memory from LARP? Now that's a hard question, because that's like asking like, who's your favorite child, I guess you could say, or like, what's your favorite movie? Like, I don't know. At least for me, that's a hard question. What's your favorite movie? But like, I have to. Let's see. I'm gonna have to.
See, I already answered when I told about having to make the choice between living and dying. That was my favorite memory. Think.
Yeah, I don't. Oh man, I mean, there's so many memories. I'm trying to think of one that like really stood out for me. I think. I mean, a lot of these are really fresh because they just happened, but I mean, this one was one that just happened recently, and it was something that happened because of the downtime that she talked about earlier. This was stuff that was emailing, and it was specifically for me. So I had been looking for the Shield of Spring, and I had been told that someone would be showing up this weekend to talk to me. Well, due to reasons of like tired PCs after a long combat with Talsagor, we didn't end up doing specifically what we wanted to do, but they told me specifically that the following day a quickling would be coming downtown to see me. So I'm sitting in the tavern, just talking to people, and this guy comes booking it through town. And the first time I saw him, I was with everyone else, and I was like, what the hell was that? He didn't fight anybody. He didn't do anything. He just comes running through town. Well, the second time, he comes running back through town, and it clicked up. I'm like, oh, wait, there was a quickling coming to see me, and they run. So, I go running. I'll get to your question here in a second, Ghost Winds, and we'll talk about that. I go running out, and I'm like, are you here for me? Because I finally clicked to me that he's a quickling, and so I go out there, and he's like, yes, I'm here for you. And that initiated like a 35 minute, like me and Boji one-on-one conversation with this guy, learning about the Shield of Spring and how to get it. And that's probably one of my favorite, because that's been a plot that I've been pursuing here for a little while, and to finally see something come to fruition but it was also just funny because everyone in town like, who the hell? Who's just running through town like a crazy,
Those are some of the favorites, though.
Yeah,
the crazy random.
Well, and the thing is when it clicked, because everyone else outside had finally cornered him, and so I go running out of the tavern, and I'm like, "Are you here for me? I'm Jovi Smash." He's like, "Yes," and then everyone was like, "Oh, okay." But for a while, everyone was about to kill him. Like, I got there just in time because they're like, "Who the hell is this random dude just running through town?" So Ghost Winds, to answer your question, what is LARP? We'll let Leetah answer it again.
All right. So LARP stands for Live Action Roleplay. It's basically, if you know anything about D&D, it's like live action D&D. Instead of rolling the dice to be like, and I swing my sword at it, you actually swing your sword at it. We use foam weapons. You can use real armor. You can use synthetic armor.
Or no armor. You can have imaginary magic armor.
Right. Magic armor. We have magic items, and we live in a magical world. And we have a whole plot team that comes up with the story that we're playing through at Mythic Realms, which is the LARP that we're primarily talking about here. The storyline has been ongoing for 20 years. There's 20 years of story. We meet every week. We dress up, we go out, and we play story every week. And it's amazing the level of detail that happens with a world that's existed for 20 years that is constantly being changed, not just by plot, but by the PCs. What is it that we want to do? We're not put on what they call a railroad, where they're like, nope, this is what we're doing, and it doesn't matter what you try and do, we're going to make this thing happen. If the PCs choose to do this, then that fails. And we do this instead, and that we have an actual chance to change the world that we live in.
So,
or destroy it.
I'll get to your question here in a second, Jack Trace, because I want to talk to Ghostwind specifically. Because I have very bad anxiety and depression as well. And I actually go to LARP because it is therapeutic for me. And it's actually recommended by my counselor and therapist that I go. An example I have is that when people start yelling in real life, I retreat into a shell, I have a panic attack, I freak out, and I don't know what to do. But in LARP, when people start yelling, because it's a character, I know they're not yelling at me specifically. Thanks for the follow, Ghostwinds. I appreciate that. I'm not seeing my that's a follow, so I have to do this. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Hi, neighbor. So, anyway, back at it. So, and the thing is when people are yelling at me specifically, like, I can't argue back. I can't talk back. But in LARP, I have had arguments with people, and it did not trigger my anxiety or my panic attack, but because it was in character, and I knew that no matter how badly they were yelling, there was nothing personal behind it. It was all just part of the game, and that for me was it was liberating. It was actually pretty cool. And afterwards, I was able to step back and go, that's like the first time in a year that I haven't had a panic attack because of somebody yelling. So, yeah.
Yeah. LARP is very therapeutic. I know for me personally, I've also dealt with depression and anxiety. For me, as a woman, it actually correlates with my cycle. But when I go to LARP, it doesn't even matter that like the physical hormones in my body are telling me, you know, life is horrible and you should, you know, all of these horrible things, right? My hormones are controlling my mind. But in LARP, I'm a totally different person, and I can block out everything else that's going on and just live here and now. I am in Cerelia. I am Leetah. I am not Candace. And I am undead, and I am a white knight, and I am powerful, and, you know, like, I'm going to go smash this thing in the face, and it's amazing. Like, the release and the freedom that comes with that.
Yeah, it's hot and gross outside here too, and not a lot of people know this, but I have self-harm scars as well, and so like I said, Mythic is good for me, not only because of the panic attacks, but because it's a social outlet that's safe, because not all social outlets, especially with online these days, they're not always safe. You've got people that are hostile and toxic, but with Mythic Realms, or if you can find a local LARP community, they do their best to keep it safe and non-toxic. And for me, it's a physical activity, and it's a safe social activity. And it's hot here too. We had a bunch of 100 plus degree days this year. Now, granted, I did not wear my armor during those days when it was that hot, but it was still hot and gross. I was sweaty. I was stinky. We just had an event this last weekend. The whole weekend, it was like 98, 99 degrees. I did not wear my armor. I got hot and gross and stinky, but I loved every minute of it.
Absolutely.
So I would say that, I mean, every person is different, but I would not immediately say you can't do it because of anxiety and depression, because that's...
Or because it's hot outside.
Yeah,
because
I think
you can choose to wear a costume that's not.
Yeah,
full
you can
armor.
wear nice, cool clothes. Like, I chose to wear armor. I do not stream us doing LARP. There's a lot more that would be involved in that.
There are YouTube videos.
Yeah, but there are YouTube videos of our LARP specifically. Even if you go to our website, I think that they have videos of it. In fact, on Facebook, we were all hot, gross, and stinky by the end of the weekend. Yes, we were.
Every
In fact,
single one of us.
this shirt has not been washed yet from the weekender, so I'm glad I have the armor on because it's covering up some of the stench and dirt and all of it. So I was not aware that it was not washed until I went to go grab it today, and I was like, well, crap. I said I would dress up for this, and I will stick to my word. So, yes, ew, it is gross, but...
you get used to gross real
You
fast.
do get used to gross. So, people are giving people hugs, and
All sweaty and
everyone's
nasty.
like, and see, and I'm weird about it. Like, someone will come to give me a hug, and I'm like, I'm sweaty and gross, and they're like, dude, we all are. I don't care. And I'm like, all right, you know. So you just kind of get used to it, you know. But it's a good workout for me. For example, last year when I went, I got like February. I was 353 pounds. Last year, once I started LARPing, I dropped down to 303. I'm now at like 314. Granted, that was a few months ago, but I'm trying to get below 300. But 50 pounds was lost just from doing this. And it wasn't boring just standing, running on a treadmill or sitting on a bike. Like,
Right.
I was hiking, I was having fun, I was doing combat. And it's all a great way of interacting and losing weight. So my leather armor is infused with the essence of Boji from years being past. Yeah. Wow, good for you. So back to... Can you scroll up to the other question real quick? Oh, no, hold on. I think I can see it here. Let's see.
No, I think it's up further.
Have you guys watched Knights of Badassdom? I have not. I have wanted to. I believe Nevitz has, and he told me that it's really good.
Actually, one of the LARPers at Alliance LARP Utah is in Knights of Badassdom.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it made here in Utah?
I don't know if it was made here in Utah, but I know that he played a big part in that.
That's
I don't
cool.
remember what his name.
Yeah, so I would like to stream doing LARP, but if you want to watch some of what we do, if you go to our Facebook page, Mythic Realms at Facebook, there are videos of the LARP. In fact, there's a video that was taken this weekend when we were all sitting around taking a break where someone was using Boji's hammer to launch tennis balls at someone who was trying to hit them with their weapon like a baseball and a bat. So these are the kind of shenanigans that we get. Yeah, mythicrealms.com. There are videos on there, or on Facebook at Mythic Realms. There's videos on there. Mm-hmm.
There's actually, if you just search
Did you find
LARP on
Cool.
YouTube, there's actually several people who have started documenting LARPs.
Not webcamming, Progos.
Yeah.
GoPros. There's some people that are doing like professional editing. There's LARP Girl and LARP House and Momo O'Brien. So there's a lot of people out there that are trying to spread the word and the awareness of LARP. So if you go on to YouTube and want to just see a little bit more of what it's about, there's a lot of stuff out there now.
The biggest problem for me trying to stream it is that I wouldn't be able to interact with the audience, and to me that's part of what a stream is. The other part is that we have people in our LARP specifically that don't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to edit something like that out when it's live. Mm-hmm. Like if I look at them to talk, they're on camera. You know what I mean? So I either completely ignore them or I look, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
there's just a few things that I have to get over, that I have to overcome, that I don't know that I'll be able to in order for me to stream the actual aspect of LARPing. If we could, I almost think it would be cool to have like a LARP setup or a stream setup from the tavern, where you can see everyone during their downtime just talking. I was in the Army for 10 years, and my people used to play D&D after a patrol. We would play for hours. Yeah, and this is like D&D on crack.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, because like I said, you are the one doing the conversations, not your character. You're the one doing the combat, not your character. You know, and the more you get into your costume, the almost, at least for me, the easier it is to get into character. That's part of the reason I wear this armor, is because when I put this armor on, I am Jovi Smash with all of his wants, needs, desires, and and morals, traits, and everything like that. So, but that is awesome. I'm always glad to hear when someone gets to play D&D and loves it. LARP is just like the next step up. It isn't for everybody, but I would always recommend at least giving it a try, because it's not as negative as people necessarily think. Yeah. Let's see. Might be fun to show videos
on Sunday after.
Yeah, I want to try to get like some pictures of people to show on stream while we're talking, and like some videos that we can cut to. Like that's like my ultimate goal, but this was just the first thing that we kind of threw together. So, yes, I agree. Thank you for your service at Ghost Winds. I appreciate that. I come from at least on my mom's side of the family, I have a large portion of them that are in the Air Force. So I have a great respect for anybody that can do and serve. So I appreciate that as well. So
absolutely.
I thought you guys were gonna have a regular here playing.
He did.
He slept in.
I mean, I would have slept in too, except you told me that I had to be here.
Yeah.
And so
you could have told me when I first set it up. You could have told me, like, hey, I'm doing an alliance.
So I didn't know.
You didn't make the connection.
I didn't. I didn't decide to do alliance until Wednesday. Wednesday was when I was like, all right, I'm gonna go play this weekend. And then you were like, hey, don't forget about Sunday. And I was like, All right, so I'm going to play Saturday, and then I'm going to come home, and then maybe play Sunday night. I don't know. I may or may not make it back up there.
Outlander asks what I meant to ask you earlier. They want to see your mask. Put it on.
Oh, yeah, so this is my mempo. Originally, when I started gearing Leetah up and, like, actually creating a costume for her, I was going with a samurai aesthetic. So I made this mask. It's my mempo mask. And I've got a samurai helmet I made, and I've got a samurai like chest plate that I made, and the tassets and everything. But I upgraded to actual full plate mail. So I just wear this now on my head. I usually have a bandana covering my hair as well. But I just wear it on my head as kind of like a token, like, hey, this is still Leetah, right? And so even though I'm wearing the full, like, medieval plate mail now, I've still got, my trademark mask that I wear with it.
Her helmet has a triceratops on it. It's dope.
Yeah, it does.
So, how many weekends events do you guys do? We start in May and we end we have one, so we do one in May, June, July, August, and September.
Yeah,
and
once
then
a month.
Apart from that, there's one every month, and then apart from that, we do every Wednesday and occasional Saturdays.
Yeah. So Wednesday's like a half day. It doesn't start until 7 and goes until like 10:30 or 11. It's supposed to stop at 10, but we usually go later.
You guys are great, says Ghostwinds. Well, thank you. And also, I think he's trying to cheer, so yay, cheer! Woohoo! Are you ever in need of writers? So all the hottest months in Utah. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Well, May is cool.
May is cool.
In fact,
September is usually okay.
We go to a different campground in May too, which is way high elevation. It gets cold.
It gets super cold.
It gets below freezing at night sometimes.
Oh my gosh, it rained the entire May weekender this year.
Did it? Not this year. I thought this year was dry.
No, it rained because it was the first time I was wearing my plate mail, and we were up on the mountain, and it started lightning, and I was like, "Oh, shit!"
Both of us were like, "Hey, we're leaving." I'm like, "We are both giant beacons for this lightning. We're out of here." Yeah, we left. Like the combat portion was over of that specific module. So modules was what we call like events or battles or whatever. So on a weekender you could have multiple modules. So is it colder with your armor? No. Is my armor cold? Yes. But
it keeps heat in really nicely.
Keeps heat in. So like if you touch it, it will freeze the crap out of you. But it insulates really well.
Yeah. So with my armor, I wear full plate mail. But because it's full plate mail, it's very uncomfortable to wear without a gambeson. So what he's got on here, where you can see it out his collar, that's just a collar gambeson that just like sits right here. I wear a full gambeson that's long sleeved. It comes up all the way and goes down almost to my knees. And it's black. And I wear that underneath my black armor, full plate mail armor, and I die. When I take that off after a module, my gambeson is soaked and the inside of my armor is wet. It's pretty bad.
Alright, I gotta go take a nap. Hope you are still on when I get up. Well, unless you take, I don't know, like an hour nap, I don't know that we'll still be on, but we appreciate you being here, Ghostwinds.
Yeah.
He's gone. Are you ever in need of... Oh, yeah. Are we ever in need of writers? That would be a better question for when we have the staff here. But I would almost say that the answer is yes, because they are always extremely busy, especially with the downtime. Mm-hmm. Downtime is something that a lot of them have a hard time getting back to us with. So I would say that they do need downtime writers. So I can't answer that specifically. Coming from a player point of view, I would say yes. But they have meetings a lot.
They do have a lot of meetings. Our plot team work really closely with each other we've got 3 kind of plot heads, if you will, the ones that are like really in charge of the main story and what's going on. And then we have other people who will just do like a one-off module, or, you know, run a module for, you know, 3 or 4 events. We have a couple who are running a whole separate storyline together, which is going to be wrapping up this coming weekender.
Yeah.
That's been going on for 2 years. It started right when I first started playing.
See, and they came in to do just that.
Yeah.
They had never played. They had never anything. They just came in and like, we want to run a story, and they were like, they had NPC'd a little bit, I think, but they.
So they actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that's
played
true.
years ago at
That's
Mythic,
true.
and actually they ran their own LARP for a while.
Yeah.
And then I think Utah LARP is what it was called. Yeah, I think it was Utah LARP. Anyways, but they closed up shop with that, and so they brought over a bunch of props and story ideas and experience. So it was really cool to have them, you know, run this other storyline that kind of took you out of Cerelia, but still with all of the Cerulean mechanics, with some minor alterations.
But Nevitz is right. They are always open to players writing things and running events. Like on Weekenders, I didn't do any this year, but in the past years I've ran a low level or a low skill point module with my little halfling who has a kobold skull that he talks to. There are a few players that recognize me when I show up and they love my character, and I do low-level modules with him. I was going to do it this last weekender, but it just got so busy that I never did. But so yeah, like I'm a player, but they let me do that, and they love it. And they've actually been trying to get Nevitz to run a module.
Nice.
Because he started writing up magic items for them. Just kind of some fun ideas that he had that they thought that they would like. And now, because of that, they're like, oh, you need to run a module now.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to bug him. So they definitely would love some help. As far as plot goes, I don't know. And it might be fun to have someone on plot that's not super involved in the game, so that maybe they could come at it with a new perspective. So, but that would be a good question for when I have someone here from plot. But I could always ask them, too, specifically, you know, when I see them. Hey, are you looking for more help to run plot? And I'm pretty sure they'll say yes. So
Yeah, they're always so at Mythic Realms, it's a volunteer community basically. Everybody that puts effort into the game does so on a volunteer basis. Those people who are actually on staff get a small compensation. It's some negligible percentage. I mean, like I hold 3 staff positions, and I get, you know, not even enough to report to taxes, like not even close every year. So I mean, it's just like a little, hey, thank you. And actually, a lot of our staff choose to take their compensation in the form of skill points or mythic points, which is a way to buy in-game items without using in-game money.
So now we get to the question. And I want like the real answer and not the politically correct answer that you give people in game. Why did you choose to become undead?
All right, you want Candace's answer or Leetah's answer?
I want both.
Okay.
That's why I said I don't want the political. Yeah.
Okay, so Candace's answer, I'll go into a little bit of back detail. Okay, so I'd only been LARPing for 6 months.
Yeah, I know it was pretty early.
I'd been LARPing for 6 months. My character was like 50, 60 skill points, somewhere around there. Not a lot of skill points. And I, as Candace, was following the plot that was going on and looking at it and going, there's an option here that they've left on the table where they have said that they will turn somebody undead as a option for winning this. It was the blood feast that was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's this option that everyone just kind of dismissed. They were like, no, we're not going to risk that, you know? And I'm like, do you know what? That would actually be kind of fun to see where that went. And I was like, all right, so let's see. What do I have to do to make this happen? So it was an organization in the game called the Argent Tide that had some powerful artifact that would turn somebody undead without having to actually like kill them and raise them from the dead. It would just turn them from living to undead. And so I was like, okay, so first I've got to get in the good graces of the Argent Tide, so they're not just like, well, we don't know you, why would we do this to you, you know? So I contacted the Argent Tide as Leetah, and I was like, hey, I want to join your organization. And so they came in and they talked to me and, you know, kind of told me what they were about. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm totally on board with all of that. Let's do this. And so they, you know, made me a member of the Argent Tide. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, hey, so you guys are offering to turn somebody undead so that we can win the blood feast. Here's my reasoning for wanting to do that. I'm low level. One of the main reasons why people haven't taken this option is because they're already powerful characters, and there was a chance that this would turn them extremely powerful, even more so, if they won the blood feast. And so they didn't want to have to deal with another super powerful undead who could potentially turn against them. So I was like, even if it does increase my power level, everyone else here can still take me down, right? And I'm very like not committed to my character at this point, right? Like she's basically just me in a costume because I didn't really know who Leetah was yet, you know?
Like that takes a while to develop.
It does. It takes a while to kind of figure out how to like be a character and not just yourself. And so, you know, I gave them all my reasoning for wanting to try this. And they were like, okay, well, you know, what does the rest of Northwatch say? And I was like, I'll work on them. So then we had a fireside and, you know, I started talking to members of the town that weren't there very often. And so didn't really know a whole lot about what was going on. And I was like, you see, these are our options and we've been pursuing this one, but this one over here, turning me undead, is actually the better option because of these reasons. And they were all like, yeah. So then when it came to a town vote, I had a lot of people on my side because they didn't really know everything that was going on. Well, then Plot gave me a helping hand and turned Kaisran crazy, who was the undead that we were supporting before that. And so it forced the player's hand into my direction. And I honestly believe that if
sneaky
right?
Indeed. Especially by ignoring Banner, you were super sneaky.
Oh my gosh. So if I hadn't, as a player, decided to make that choice to turn myself undead, I believe that Plot would not have made Kaisran turn against us. She would have been the right choice and we would have moved forward, right? Like, and maybe eventually she would have turned against us, but I think that if, and this is all just speculation, but the fact that that I had volunteered, they pushed things into my ball court. And so I got the rest of the town to agree to support in doing this. And so I went and they turned me undead and we ended up winning the blood feast. And so the original lines that Leetah had been given were that she was going to, this was going to wear off, is exactly what they said. They were like, the effect of being undead will wear off in about 3 months.
Bullshit!
And I mean, they even had Reginald inspect the item, and and that's what he was under the impression of as well. And then 3 months came and went, and I was still undead, and more time passed, and then eventually the Argent Tide came to find me and kill me, because the Argent Tide is an organization that is against super powerful, non-human creatures?
Non-living.
Non-living, I mean...
Anything that takes the free will away from man.
Right, anything that takes the free will away from man, right? And so they were like, well, we can't have an undead in our ranks, so first, we're stripping you of your rank, and you are no longer a member of the Argent Tide.
Wow.
And second, we're going to kill you because you obviously enjoy being undead, and we're not okay with that. And I was like, no, you guys are the ones that said I was going to be undead and that this would wear off, and it didn't, so y'all are the ones that went against your word. It was a back and forth for several months on this, and eventually we came to a pass where they were like, okay, we believe you, you're on our side. I had a powerful ritualist try to bring me back to life, which should have worked, and I was notified out of game by plot that had I wanted to come back to life, it would have worked. But since me as a player didn't want to not be undead, because I enjoyed the roleplay aspect of it so much, that it failed to bring me back to life. So...
As soon as you turned into an undead, did your character sheet change?
So the character sheet itself did not change. I still retained all of my regular abilities as Leetah. They just added what they call a template to it. They said, okay, this is an undead template that lays on top of your character, right? So now, instead of being healed by heal, you are now healed by drain. And instead of... and at the time when I first turned undead, in order to stay alive, I had to consume the flesh of a cyclic creature once an event.
That reminds me of another one of my questions. So.
And if I didn't consume the flesh of a cyclic creature once an event, I would die. I would take a death. And that was very morally taxing for me. I wasn't a White Knight yet. I was actually considering going Black Knight at the time, but it was so morally taxing for my character. Leetah hated having to eat people. I always generally got permission from a player character to eat them, basically, and then bring them back to life, so that I wouldn't die. But it was so morally taxing for me. That's actually what turned me to White Knight, was that idea of having to sacrifice others' well-being for my own. Super uncomfortable with it. But as Candace, I loved the roleplay aspect and everything that was involved with having to eat people. So what was your other question?
Let's see, what's his character name? I want to hear the story about you when you ate...
Zisto?
Yes, Zisto.
That was the best one. Okay, so no, not me. My husband's character, Zarn, had paid Tarquin to keep me alive, to keep me fed. Okay, so if we didn't run into a cyclic creature while we were questing, he would be in charge of finding me somebody who was willing to let me eat them. So he makes this deal with Wizard Zisto, and he's like, Leetah needs sustenance. Are you willing to do that? And Zisto's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. And Tarquin says, well, why don't I do this? I'll make a record of it for you.
Apparently we need to stop hitting the table.
I'll make a record of it for you so that you can study this later and, you know, see what knowledge you can gain from it, because Zisto's really big into, you know, studying and all that stuff. And so he agrees.
Real quick, Zisto is a dark elf sorcerer kind of wizard
Right, he's
guy.
a wizard, yep. And so he says, well, I want to be alive when it starts. And so Tarquin is making a record, which is basically in-game for saying taking video.
We need this video.
And he was like, but I don't want to alarm anybody. So give me a silence poison. So we silence poison Zisto. And I put him into his bleed count, because nothing, like, it doesn't help me at all, actually, until they're dying. They have to be in their death count in order for it to nourish me,
okay.
right? So, so I had to role play eating him for 1.5 minutes, because he's got a minute bleed count, and then I have to consume flesh for 30 seconds while in their death count. So I role play eating him for 1.5 minutes, and he is like twitching and flailing, and like it was so hard to keep a straight face because it was so funny. But it was like horrible, and like several townspeople like came around the corner, saw what was going on, freaked out, and turned around. Oh my gosh, that video actually made rounds at dinner afterwards for a couple months.
Yeah, we need
so
this video
funny.
for next week.
I don't know if Tarquin still has it. I've asked him before, and it's been a while. I don't know if he still has it.
I'll have to message him on the boards, but
Yeah.
yeah, apparently we need to stop hitting the table. It makes the microphone pop, so
Sorry.
that's all right. Thanks for that little tidbit, by the way. I want to see this, says Moji. Yeah. Wasn't he like screaming, but because he was silenced,
Yes.
like nothing was coming out? So yeah, it's like this is like the worst form of
gosh.
torture if she really
And he
wanted
was-
to do it.
He was sitting on a chair too while we were doing it, so he's like flailing and like, oh my gosh, it was like to die for humor, and everyone is like trying to keep a straight face and being like horrified. Oh, it was beautiful.
See, that is LARP in a nutshell. Eating your friends while they scream in silence.
You're making me spit coffee out my nose. Please don't.
At least it's not super hot anymore, right? Or is it still hot?
Oh no, it's cold.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would burn.
it's
It
almost
would
gone.
burn twice if it was still hot. But oh man,
Yeah, it was pretty amusing. That's another one of my favorite memories, I guess.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't know why, but yeah, that sounds like. And I had heard a little bit about that when you got drunk, so that's why I brought it up. So
Yeah, that was funny. Just don't mention the riding a chair through town. That's fine. Leetah doesn't get drunk very often, but when she does, she goes all out.
yeah, she does. So. Well, we'll see if we can get the video for next week, Nevis.
Yeah, you'll have to try and get it from Josh. I'm not sure.
So, by the way, speaking of next week, I was going to do like the tools of the trade, and talk about making LARP weapons and armor and different things like that, and then just kind of going into just kind of chatting. But would you guys rather have me interview? Because it'll be Leetah or Candace again that I'll be interviewing, which she's okay with that. But would you guys rather see LARP is eating? Oh man, Nevis made a clip of that.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
He said,
he made a clip of me. That needs to be a quote, by the way,
As you say,
too.
Nevitz, if you can hear me, put it on stream SLCs.
But that needs to be a quote too that goes into my quote channel for
LARP
sure.
is
LARP
eating.
is eating your friends while they scream in silence. So that's so. Thank you for that, Nevin. That's pretty good.
That's a good quote.
That's a good little clip. So, but anyway, back to it. Would you guys like to have me interview somebody else instead, and then get back to her? Is that drunk LARPing?
Is there drunk LARPing?
Oh,
So,
yes.
Yeah, so different LARPs have different rules about this. At Mythic, you're totally fine to drink, as long as you're not endangering other characters, other players. At Alliance, alcohol and drugs are strictly not allowed.
Well, there's no drugs at Mythic either.
Well, there's no
but-
drugs at Mythic. At Alliance, alcohol and drugs are strictly not allowed. If you're caught using them, you will be kicked out and you're not allowed to return. But Alliance does have in-game role play, intoxication, poisons, and stuff like that you can use. So
Yeah. So yeah, you can get drunk, and I've had a few. I've never gotten drunk in game, but I have thrown down a few. So, but she did get drunk one time. So, and
I mean, one time is Leetah, and then one time all weekend you weren't there.
no, that was the one I
For the
missed.
July weekend, I was drunk
Well,
the entire
the
time.
weekend that you got drunk, the bartender was like down, or the tavern keep was like downing them all day, every day. Like,
Yeah.
so he was always a bit tipsy too. So,
Yeah.
but yes, there is drunk LARPing. So, thanks for watching and sharing. Arrustar hugs. Oh, hug, man, there you go. That's my thing. But at Mythic, if you are drunk, you are not allowed to wield a weapon. You can still use spells though.
Right. Because it's too hard to accidentally hit somebody the wrong way if you're drunk with a weapon. But with a spell packet, it's more likely that you're just not going to hit anything at all with the spell packet.
You're gonna hit the third one that wasn't really there.
Right. You hit the tree.
Yeah,
You hit the dirt.
Yeah. So, but would you guys like to have me interview somebody else next week instead of Candace, or what? What would you guys like to see?
I think giving another person would be.
Yeah, like I would probably do my brother next week, Boji Smash, because
That would be cool to get
Yeah.
your guys' storyline and stuff too.
because I mean honestly, like I almost did him as my first one. Like I probably should have, because he's my brother after all. But well, we didn't. It ended up being this way. But what do you guys want to see next week on this one? So I love Candace, but it's up to you. It is up to Bud.
That's good. That's you, but
Oh. Well, I'm asking you guys because you're the audience. This is what I'm up for. Anything. I mean, I'm as long as people are here and they're asking questions and talking, I'm up for anything. But I would like to see what you guys would like to see, because you're the audience and that's what's important. So
Yeah. And regardless of if I come back next week or not, I will be coming back sometime
yeah,
to talk about crafting and
and just other stuff.
yeah.
She'll always have stories. I'll always have stories. But why not both?
it would be cool, like the weekend after you guys come back, to have like you and Nevitz and Candace and your I don't know his name.
Divas. I won't be going to the September one because it's the wrap up of.
You should come NPC. I'm going to be NPCing the entire weekend because it's the storyline that I only NPC for. I know
Yeah, I
all of the
know.
backstory for it.
I don't even know all the backstory. I NPC for it occasionally, but it's for a storyline that I'm not involved with, so I won't be But like next year we can do that. But so you guys want both me? You want Candace and Nevitz?
That would be cool too.
We could do that.
Okay,
All right.
we can do that. So
Sounds like
that's what we'll do next week. We'll
I'll dress as a different
I
character
wanna
next
see
week.
Candace, but I don't want to see Neville.
That's fine. I mean,
so
my Alliance character did start a brothel
yeah, we do
last
need
night.
to show up. You have to show up in full costume. So you started a. Are you gonna dress up as your Alliance character then?
Yeah, I'll probably dress up as my Alliance
That's
character.
fine.
I
And
mean,
we can-
unless we want to talk more like in-game mythic stuff, then I can come
We
as
can
Aziza.
still
You
talk.
didn't get to meet Aziza, so maybe I'll come in as Aziza.
Yeah, that was the weekend I missed, so I couldn't get it off. Well, yeah, money was a big issue at that point in time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to. Yeah, we'll wear full costume. Except I won't make her wear armor because she'd be sitting like a robot, like straight up.
Yeah.
She'd be so uncomfortable. I told her she didn't have to wear her armor because it's full plate, and that's just not comfortable. So.
Yeah, it's not at all to sit in. I mean, like, I've actually gotten a lot stronger since wearing my armor. So when I first started wearing my plate mail in May, I wore it for the first weekender. I struggled so hard. Like, I had to sit down. I had to like get the weight off my shoulders, and I felt like I was doing like whatever this lifting motion is, whatever, like all day long. It hurt my shoulders so bad. And eventually, as I wore it more and more, it wasn't so bad. And like sometimes I'd wear it without the pauldrons just to, you know, not have quite so much weight on my shoulders. Well, this past weekender, it didn't bother me at all. And I was like, dang. And then I looked in the mirror and went like this, and I was like, yeah, I've got traps.
See, ever since I started wearing this, my shoulders don't hurt anymore. So my shoulders hurt for different reasons because the actual scales would dig into my skin. So apparently, there's some kind of insider joke that I'm missing. Aziza and Bradshaw sitting in a tree.
You know who Bradshaw is, right?
I'm assuming it's your husband's character.
No, Deb's character.
Oh.
Bradshaw, Captain Bradshaw.
Oh, okay.
So, Captain Bradshaw
Got her drunk.
sleeps with anything and everything and is constantly trying to get in bed with everything, right? So, Aziza, my other character that you didn't get to meet, is basically the same way, but not quite so crass. Okay, Bradshaw is super crass. Well, Aziza had been working on trying to get into bed with people all day and hadn't really been successful.
You should have asked Boji because he'll
And
take
then-
you back to the Hall of Smash to smash any day.
Oh my gosh. So then the person that plays Bradshaw, she I don't think her husband will watch this. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to come in as Bradshaw.
Oh,
I need to
love
come
it.
in as Bradshaw." And so that night, we're all sitting in the gambling hall, gambling and drinking, and I'm sitting on Frack's lap, and Bradshaw comes in, and she was like, "Hey, you," and I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You've heard of me, right?" And I was like, she's like, "Captain Bradshaw." I was like, "Oh yes, I have heard of you." And I got up and we walked out together.
Nice.
And then she was like, "All right, role play that however you want to. I'm going to bed."
That's fun. Well, okay, biggest question. Do you role play STDs? I mean, it's never come up in games, so...
Okay, so as Aziza, because I made this character, someone who basically makes her living by having other people provide for her because she gives them pleasure, right? Like that's her whole like way she survives. She doesn't care about coin herself. She just wants to make sure that you will pay for her, right? So she always has purify potions on her. That's part of the role play that I decided to have for her because, well, of course she'd have purify potions on her. Not that, like, they're useful, you know, in combat if you need to cure a disease or whatever, sure. But that's not why she carries them, right? She carries them for a role play reason.
That's funny.
And the fact that she has them just is that suggestive role play, right?
Let's see. There was a bear involved, too?
Yes. Yes, there was. Yeah, she was like, when she was explaining, she was like, "All right, so you can role play that however you want to. I'm a happily married woman. I'm going to bed." She's like, "Just know that at some point there's a bear involved." And I have found out since then that this bear is something that always gets involved with Bradshaw somehow or
Okay.
another. And so I was like, all right, there was a bear involved. I'm down with that.
Okay. So I guess the answer to your question, Outlander, is that she has sort of role-played it, but she has kept it so that she is still clean with those purify potions, so...
Yeah. That's basically. I mean, I'm doing the same thing with Lilith, who is my alliance character.
It sounds like it.
She has cleanse, a spell, the cleanse spell. She also has the endow spell, and so every spell that I picked for Lilith was for roleplay purposes, like shackle.
Oh, jeez.
And release.
Why is
They're
there
useful
why is
in
there
combat.
what does Endow do outside of roleplay? Like
It's like potency in Mythic. So it gives you, it grants strength and
okay.
stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. This kind of adult roleplay is not super common, that is true.
Yeah, no, it's not super common, and actually I haven't seen any of it at all, really, at Mythic until I brought in Aziza.
Well,
in July. Not saying that it hasn't happened.
2 years ago, when the barbarians first showed up, those two brothers or whatever, they kind of got in trouble because they kept walking around while asking every woman if they were a female of the night or something like that. So they need to be there when you play Aziza.
They were there, but they weren't as their barbarians.
Were they the Parthens again?
They were the Parthens again, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to put that cat in a sack.
Aww.
And he was like, you don't want to see this cat in a sack. I make really strange noises like...
Those two Parthens were great, man.
They were awesome. It was good times. Yeah, no, adult roleplay isn't super common at most any LARP. I guess unless I walk in.
It's late hour stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually late at night when people get tired and alcohol gets involved. Those kind of things can start happening, but...
or when alcohol gets involved early in the day.
Yeah, so... Right? Strength 13 and his health, he's surprised he doesn't get Nevitz. With Boji's strength at 13 right. and his health, I'm surprised he doesn't get hit on more in game.
Yeah, well, next time I bring in Aziza, we'll fix that.
Yeah, I told you. That's why we call it the Hollow Smash. Mm-hmm. Just kidding. That's not the real reason. There definitely were jokes about it, though, for sure. So...
That's awesome. Good times, good times. I like making people just like a little uncomfortable. I like to see where people's boundaries are. I'm pretty good at like judging people's comfort level. And so like I'll usually start with like a small joke, like a little innuendo, and see like how they react to that, and then bump it up a notch or bump it like up in frequency to see where people's comfort level is. And then, like, if I can tell that they're uncomfortable, then I just back off.
I have learned so many things about people because of that. Like, not even, like, I'm not the one asking the questions, but other people are, but that's what she said, yeah. I've learned a lot about people from other people and bumping it up a notch, and I'm like, I did not expect that person to even respond or go there with their response, so... Yeah. There have been some things that I was like, wow, I did not need to know that about you, and I'm surprised you even went there. But so.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk later. Anyways.
Yeah, trying to keep this family friendly. We've kind of gone a little out of there, but that's all right.
Sorry,
What was the question really? So it's all right though. So. Well. Woohoo! He's totally the bit boss. Like, if I had the bit boss going, he'd be the bit boss big time. So, we'll have to fix it next week. I can manually make him bit boss. So, I appreciate that, Jack Trades. Woo! All the biddies.
Good times.
Well, I feel like this is like a natural kind of ending point for this. So, it's already gone on longer than I anticipated, which is fine. That means it went well. So I appreciate everybody being here. We are going to try to turn this into like a podcast audio thing for you to be able to hear. So the stream has been active for 3 hours and 21 seconds. Yeah, I was only going to do this for 2 hours. So
Sorry.
No, this is fine. This is totally fine. Like, yeah, I mean, 2 hours was just what people said they'd listen to with a podcast. But I've had people here talking, interacting, and that's what all. I mean, we've been interacting, and that's what matters. So,
Absolutely.
so if you want to follow, can you post my Twitter on there? I don't know if there should be a timer that's been showing it, but I haven't seen it yet. So if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, when I get the podcast up, I'll post a link for the podcast on there so that you guys can take this on the go and I guess laugh in the car at our jokes or what have you, or let other people hear this that weren't able to see it. But yeah, next week we'll be doing this again starting at noon Mountain Standard Time. Next week we'll have Aziza and we'll have Boji Smash. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be fun with all three of us. So
Yeah.
and we are streaming today from Ascendance Gaming Center. Yes, anybody here from Utah, come check out Ascendance Gaming. They've got computers. They've got
We got a pretty sweet setup here.
They've got 2 ultra computers, 3 ultra computers, so you can play WoW Classic with the bestest graphics ever. And
I can play WoW Classic with the bestest WoW Classic graphics with my crappy computer.
and they have 2 VR setups. So if you want to come on down, Retro Consoles was Monday Smash Night. Monday is their Smash Melee night. Friday night is buy one get one. So any hour you buy, you get. Sometimes.
Right now we are running through tomorrow. Buy one get one.
Oh, so the rest of this weekend, buy one get one. So you buy 1 hour, get 1 hour. Buy 3 hours, get 3 hours. It does not work on passes though. So, let's see. We are streaming today from Wild Arms. Yeah, on Thursday I should be streaming the original Wild Arms. I was supposed to start this week, but I was sick, so I didn't make it. So, if you want to have any updates on what's going on, follow me on Twitter or join my Discord, and we can chat on there. Especially if you have any ideas about LARP, other things that you would like to see, I'd like to know. So, I appreciate everybody being here. As soon as this ends, we're going to take probably about a 30-minute break, and then I'll start back up again with Stellaris. I'll be continuing my my campaign where I'm playing the
Words.
Yeah, words. I forgot. I'm trying to assimilate all the galaxy as my little teddy bears that have been mutated by a parasite. So come join us while we do that. Afterwards, I'll probably do that until 5:30 maybe. We'll just see how that goes. So anyway, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for all the questions. I really appreciate it. And remember, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Bye.